Truth warrior, woke destroyer.
Only in America.
Randy Tobler.
Dreaming in red, white, and blue.
On NewsTalkSTL.
Only in America, where we dream as big as we want to. We all get a chance.
They chose to, they killed the wrong guy, right? Because this is like the perfect guy. Alex Pretty is the guy you would want to date your daughter. The guy you would want your son to grow up to be. A decent human being who was serving humanity, serving sick veterans, who is, there is nothing that has been said about that man that isn't wonderful. And so they can't malign him.
Oh, you can't malign him. Well, you'd think he's Sir Lancelot. You'd think he's the hero of any major traditional novel. I mean, you just can't malign this guy. Alex Pretty, the new George Floyd. Today's show is all about guardrails and all about maps. And as we go through, I will explain. But the headline is that the country has lost its guardrails, and we desperately, desperately need some maps when it comes into norms of behavior and expectations of propriety. And it is really sad to see. That was, of course, a day or two. That's Ana Navarro, formerly, I think, a Republican contributor to CNN and other outlets, and now turned hardcore progressive woke left, of course. The country is, once again, across all jurisdictions, L.A., of course, Minneapolis, New York City. The riots were outbreaking last night, and it looks like we are descending, Jerome, into another season of rioting and protest, and people just acting out, many of them organized and paid, others who don't even have a clue what they're protesting about. Just seems like a good thing to do on a cold winter's night. And again, it's about guardrails. There are none. Maps. There are many needed. And who's going to show the light and put the guardrails on? I don't know. We're going to be talking with some wonderful folks today that may have some answers for that. Dr. Josh McConkey, he's a colonel, an Air Force colonel, but also a doc, author of Be the Weight Behind the Spear. And talk to him. He's a former student. I think he was a high school student of Tim Walz. So we'll talk with him about crisis escalation, about management of groups of people and behavior and controlling lawbreakers. He knows a little bit about that. Dave Hebert, of course, our economist of record here on the program, will be weighing in with the announcement of the new Fed chair, at least the nominee for that, with Tom Tillis in the Senate standing down until the prosecution of Jerome Powell goes away. What a man of integrity that Tom Tillis is. Oh, excuse me, he's not up for election anymore. And then a lot of other news. The producer price index, you may have noticed. Maybe you didn't, but I did, because that's my job for you here on the Tobler Show, to comb the airwaves, comb the news cycle with everything that's important to you. Producer price index spiked yesterday. Well, didn't make a lot of headlines, but it's an important number. We'll talk with Dave about economy, what's going on about that, and some international trade deals that will make you shake in your boots when you hear about them. And they're not involving the U.S. That's why you'll shake in your boots. Dr. Alan Mendenhall from Heritage then will join us on Don Lemon being, is it Don Lemon, Don Lemon? I don't know. But he can't make lemonade out of the lemon that he pulled when he violated the FACE Act along with those intruders into the church the other day. Arrested in L.A. yesterday and booked. And so we'll have to see, booked on conspiracy, actually. So he was definitely a part of it, and we've got some sound bites to play on that as well. I don't know why. It's so clear. I mean, a magistrate judge in Minneapolis denied him or declined to prosecute him. His senior superior judge similarly did that. They wrote that they didn't think, one of them wrote in their little memo that they didn't think there was any evidence there in violation. And then the appellate court said, we can't do this until it's been adjudicated. So once again, we have people in robes who are cowards, generally cowards. I think there's a lot of cowardice. Now, there's many good judges, but there's a lot of judges that are just cowards, and they don't want to really put on guardrails and illustrate maps. Put on guardrails and illustrate maps. That's what is needed in this country. I've thought about this all week. I thought, what is the unifying theme that is lacking in this country? It's guardrails and maps. That's what it's all about. I think you know what I mean. We have no guardrails. If my truth is my truth and I disagree with you and I want to shoot you, if I'm Luis Mangione, oh, I can find a judge who will say I won't get the death penalty. Yeah, guardrails and maps. And when it comes to youth behavior, well, we're gonna have drag queens in our fifth grade, and we're gonna, tell kids if you want to cut your breast off because you're a confused 11-year-old girl and get some hormones because you think you might want to be a hey. We're not going to show you the map and turns towards the proper way to conduct your life and to treat your body, which is a temple, when it was given to you in the wonder of God's creation. No, no, no. We have a map that is your map. You write your own map. We're not going to help you with a map. It's guardrails and maps. That's what's missing in America in 2026.
I would almost argue that in the case of the mutilation of these children, it's actually a little bit different. It is, we're going to confuse you, and then we're going to give you this map that instructs you that you'll be unconfused if you let us mutilate you. And I think that
Right.
is so much worse.
Yeah.
So I like guardrails, I like maps, but I think we should also be making sure it's a good map and not a bad map.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yes.
We've got maps that really lead to the maps that are not mapped properly, right? I mean, the cartographer is so woke that he's lost.
They need a telescope and
And-
they're looking through a kaleidoscope, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, we need biblical maps. We need maps of morality. We need maps of proper behavior. We need docents to show kids the right way to be. We need juvenile court systems that are goals on improper behavior in a much different way than we're doing now. Because without those, lacking guardrails and lacking the right maps to the right destination by the right path, you see what's happening in the streets. I can do what I want to do. The First Amendment gives me the right to, wait a minute, peaceably assemble. Oh, no, the courts have allowed radical, violent protests to be now somehow enshrined under the First Amendment. Improper guardrails, lack of maps to the right destination. That's what's wrong. How we get it back is another thing. I don't know. Now, that's a bigger question. Maybe y'all have some answers. 314-912-1019 is, I think, the way you may want to join in on that, because I need to understand from you what kind of guardrails can we at the ballot box, maybe in our Boy and Girl Scout troops. I think there's something called, what is it now, Heritage Girls. There's a replacement for the woke Girl Scouts. Because the Girl Scouts sort of went off the rail. They went outside the guardrails, went off into the ditch. Remember that? I don't know what's happened to the Girl Scouts. Are they still pure and chaste, or have they gone? I think they went off the guardrails. But those of you who can exert guardrails, whether you're parents or other influencers of children, those of you can take the light and show them the proper way. Are you doing that? Are you taking the time to do that? Are you investing your time in that? It's difficult these days, whether you're a parent or a teacher or some other influential person in a young person's life, because those people need to be guided. I mean, there used to be a time when authority sort of knew the right guardrails and the right maps, and then they transferred that generationally through procedures and policies in the various realms in which they had jurisdiction, and they, life went on. Then we sent rocket ships to the moon, and we celebrated success, and we celebrated prosperity in all the right ways, with a hand up, not a hand out, because we all knew that without the map of the map of guidance to the proper way to be a self-sustaining, independent human being, you're going to end up, going off the rails. But it's all been lost because, of course, politicians like to plunder. Did I mention it's tax season? Politicians like to plunder and then hand out, without guardrails and without maps, goods and services so that they can get elected. Politicians have lost their guardrails. Listen to the rhetoric you hear from the dais behind the microphone. I mean, they've lost it. including Donald Trump, when he, gives the middle finger to someone who's, you know, shouting out at him at a Ford plant. Was it a Ford plant or it was an automaker plant a couple weeks ago? Why'd he do that? Where's his guardrails? I guess it's not Melania, although she's out with a new movie. I don't know whether I'm going to see the movie. I was excited about that movie, and I generally am supportive of Melania. And then it came to me that she actually is pro-abortion. Well, pro-choice. Did you know that, Jerome? She's pro-choice.
Yeah, I remember that being a point of contention during the campaign because, again, the lunatics on the left were saying that once President Trump gets elected, it's going to be Handmaid's Tale left and right, national abortion bans, mandatory pregnancies, and one, we've not gotten any of that, but two,
No.
That was something that came up as she, Melania saying that she was pro-choice, and that kind of stung quite a few of the conservatives a little bit wrong.
Although I think in this country where we do have First Amendment rights, I do fully support her right to proclaim her belief in that. I really do. And I think for the most part, she's a very poised and certainly a supporter of children. And really, I think during the first term, we saw that. She sort of walked that walk with staying back in New York to raise Barron through his schooling, the end of his schooling. That was good. It was good to see. And, now she's reaching out to children and encouraging them to adopt AI in all the right kind of ways. So we'll have to see where it all washes out. Well, I look forward to spending some time with you this morning. It's going to be fun. It's going to be, I think, sometimes tearful when you think about what's going on in this country. When an unsuccessful cable news person who's had his own set of controversies and scandals is part of a conspiracy to enter a church and disrupt a worship service. And he was. I mean, it's on tape that he was saying he's going to turn the cameras off because they're going to be the instigators of this, the invaders of that sanctuary, that sacred space. He's outside before it saying that they're going to turn the cameras off because, they're going to talk about some very important matters. Well, I mean, come on. That's not what a journalist does. So this will probably end up, I think, being one of many type of cases that one or another are going to probably end up in the Supreme Court to try to redefine what is a journalist and what kind of immunity do they have in their activities that relate to the First Amendment. Well, we're going to be talking with our various guests about that because it's a pivotal question and it needs to be answered. And I think the Supreme Court probably needs to, yes, put some guardrails and yes, show some light on the right map for behavior, at least in that First Amendment right. Yeah, for both protesters and journalists. 314-912-1019. It's 1019-941 News Talk STL. Glad you're here. We have lots to talk about. We have just scratched the surface. We'll take a deeper dive with Dr. Josh McConkey in just a minute. Stay tuned for more.
Randy Tobler.
It's my favorite show in the entire world.
This is News Talk STL.
We'll be right back.
News Talk STL.
First thing in the morning and pretty much all day.
Live and local. 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Looking for the perfect way to say I love you this Valentine's Day? Anthony's Produce has you covered. Get our amazing combo special. 1 dozen beautiful roses and 1 dozen delicious chocolate-covered strawberries for just $39.99. It's romance made easy. Available February 9th through the 15th only, so don't wait. Order online at anthonysproduce.com. Call 636-936-0496 or visit us at 701 Jungerman Road.
Hey folks, Jamie Allman here for Newstedter's Fine Jewelry right there at Doherty Ferry and Big Bend. WowDiamonds.com. It's Wow Diamonds for a reason. These are beautiful lab-grown diamonds. They are gorgeous. They will blind you when you walk in and see them, but that's a good thing. Great engagement sets, wedding sets, all these beautiful God-created gems, sapphires, rubies, you name it, garnets, and also all the gold you need, and the famous bull of a watch, WowDiamonds.com.
Hey, it's Susie Moore. If new flooring makes you think hassle, think again, because Michael's Flooring is changing the game. For over 30 years, Michael's has been locally owned and trusted for quality, variety, and amazing service. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, laminate, luxury vinyl, or ceramic tile, their expert team makes installing new floors exciting, not stressful. That's why customers keep coming back. Visit Michael's Flooring at St. Peter's, Starting Prairie, Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
Need promotional products or apparel for your business? Look no further than Blue Sky Promotions. This woman-owned, locally operated company in Bridgeton specializes in anything and everything promotional. From branded apparel and uniforms to custom giveaways and marketing materials, Blue Sky Promotions has you covered. Whether you're looking to stand out at a trade show, build brand awareness, or reward your employees, Blue Sky Promotions has the solutions you need. Visit blueskypromotions.com or call 314-739-3531.
License number GL250000615.
Hey, it's good to see you.
Home power used to be simple. Now the car plugs in, the scooter plugs in, the space heater plugs in, and your electric panel starts popping.
That sounds bad, but I like popcorn.
Popcorn is great, sparks are not. Call Grasser. We'll upgrade your panel so you can run it all.
Electric and plumbing, the Grasser way.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeServices.com.
Duck and goose season still on, and Whistle Pig Outdoors has everything you need to finish strong. Hey, it's Mike Ferguson, and right now get 40% off all Taka hunting clothing in Mossy Oak Bottomland. Bow broken? Well, their archery pro shop sells Hoyt and Bear bows, custom arrows, and they provide expert service. Whistle Pig Outdoors on Main Street in Troy, or visit whistlepigoutdoors.com. Whistlepigoutdoors.com. Whistle Pig, get back out there.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com.
Looks like you like to get up early, so Monday through Friday, listen to me from 5:30 to 9. Mike Ferguson here, and you are listening to The Randy Tobler Show right here on News Talk STL.
Welcome back into the program. We are trying to unpack and sort out why people are behaving the way they are, why riots are breaking out. Last evening, riots all over the country, calls for a don't shop, don't work, don't go to school. I guess people in this free country have the right to make those decisions for themselves. They also have the right to, I think, pay the consequences of those decisions. What would you do? I don't know. Josh McConkey isn't answering, but that's okay. We'll try to get a hold of him. What would you do if you're a business owner? Many of you are. Many of you may be co-owners, managers, on the board of some kind of an organization. Profit, nonprofit, doesn't matter. You maybe perhaps you're a teacher, perhaps a principal. Oh, is Josh with us now? Good. Yeah. Hey, Dr. Josh McConkey, Colonel McConkey. Colonel Dr. Josh McConkey joins us now. I'm always humbled when I'm in the presence of either a doctor or the Air Force Colonel. Here he is, Dr. Josh McConkey, to talk about what's going on across the land in the wake of Alex Pretty, and before that, Renee Good's consequences for their behavior. Josh, welcome into the program.
Thank you.
It's hard to watch this when you come from your very esteemed, CV and resume, and talking about being your book, The Weight at the Point of the Spear. How do you process this as you look at this? I mean, how do you process what's going on in America and how the media is justifying it?
Well, number one, it's just a terrible tragedy. It's just a complete series of bad decisions, that just put them in situations that did not need to happen. I grew up in rural western Nebraska. You know, uh, Shot a lot of firearms. My dad taught me how to shoot. Served 23. I'm going on 24 years now in the military. And just very simply, when you talk about Alex, when you carry a weapon, I'm a huge supporter of the Second Amendment rights. You have a tremendous responsibility. And so when you're carrying a weapon, you have a responsibility to de-escalate, to remove yourselves from situations. Him jumping into law enforcement operations, resisting arrest, and we see earlier the week before, there was verbal assaults and then physically kicked out the taillights of an ICE vehicle. Just that type of behavior. No one deserves to be shot. But when you put yourself in those situations, in very dangerous situations, and ramp up rhetoric and all that tension, you're just putting yourself in a very bad position. Now, I don't want people to jump to conclusions. Everyone looks at these videos and they have their own instant replay, right? It shows exactly what they want you to show and it fits their narrative, and the left just goes absolute berserk and crazy. The media, misrepresents at best, and a lot of times flat out lies. It's just a tragedy, and as an American citizen, I hate to see this. Man, it's actually quite bizarre to watch American citizens attacking their own law enforcement.
When you go back and look at the founding documents, and for instance, you read the First Amendment, I see the words peaceful assembly or peaceably assemble, right? And I think somehow it's become sort of that definition has been now expanded, I guess, through courts and their precedent and the way courts are, to where, what we see on the streets is now being referred to as peaceful protests. We remember the iconic picture of the CNN reporter in front of a burning building saying, well, they were just peacefully protesting, back in the BLM. But I think we have a lot. Aren't the courts culpable for allowing the expansion of how you would define what is protected in terms of peaceable assembly in the First Amendment? It seems pretty elementary to me.
Well, it's more ridiculous than that. It's the media. It's just the narratives that they're clearly trying to just push ideology through reporting. It's clearly not peaceful. When you watch what happened in Portland, I served in Portland, Oregon. I served with the 304th Rescue Squadron, Combat Search and Rescue. I was medical director for the PJs. And there was I went to a soccer match in Portland. And by the time I was getting ready to leave, this was 2018, 19, going into 2020. And things were getting so bad in Portland, I couldn't even talk one of the PJs to go into downtown Portland to go to the soccer match with me. And not because, they were afraid for themselves. These guys are, trained killers. They jump in to the most dangerous situations on planet Earth to rescue, downed aviators, rescuing people from mountaintops. They're special operations. It's if they put themselves in a situation and had to defend someone, or even defending themselves, their fists are basically deadly weapons. And things in Portland were so ridiculous that if they were even in a situation where they had to defend themselves, they knew they would be the ones charged, because they're just such liberal policies. As an emergency physician, I deal with drugs and all kinds of crazy things in the emergency department, and they were just straight up. They just decriminalized all the drugs. They were just handing out free drugs, and their answer to everything, which is so hilarious, was, we're not going to charge them with any crimes. We're just going to let them. We're going to give them counseling sessions, and then surprisingly enough, cracked out drug addicts don't show up for their counseling sessions.
Well, it's you're so right there. And look, as an emergency physician, and I've been a doc for 30 some odd years, and boy, I've treated people who either overtly had discussions with me because I'm on the air. I was, wherever I've lived, I've been on the air and been pretty transparent about the way I feel, my worldview. Many of them knew about it. I disagreed. They disagreed. But when it came to our medical interactions, we were the best of friends and the best of trusted. It was a trusting relationship because That's what you do, right? It's what you do. And yet, I've known many conservative docs who have, without regard, treat like as we should. They treat whoever they run across in the proper manner. And I'm sure you have in the emergency room. What do you think of these nurses? Nurse anesthetist in Florida who says, I'm not going to treat anyone who's MAGA. The nurses who say they hope that Caroline Leavitt gets ripped from stem to stern when she delivers here in a few months and ends up with what medical people would call a cloaca, one opening where there should be two. I hate to get graphic, but we need to. We need to. It's the same reason we need to show pictures of the Holocaust. What is wrong with medical people on the left? There's something. TDS is a real virus, isn't it, Josh?
Oh, well, clearly, and they've been so radicalized. With they sit in echo chambers and they just sit there, and everyone agrees with them, regardless of how ridiculous and bizarre their ideology gets. It's so unprofessional. But the one specifically, the OB nurse is just there has to be. I mean, there's clearly professional lines that they don't respect at all. And then mentally, you just wonder where their head is at, because to even think something like that is so horrific. And then you put it on social media, like you're gonna get fired. Like everyone in the country is gonna know you're a complete nutter. I don't know where their head's at. It's bizarre.
Yeah. Well, maybe everyone doesn't, and that's where I want to really now really lean into your book, Be the Weight Behind the Spear, and the philosophy that is in that. And by the way, it's a Pulitzer Prize winning nominee for nonfiction.
Not nominated. I did not win.
I said nominated. No, I said nominated. A nominee for nonfiction. Yeah. No. So, but that's a big deal. And look, as a leader, as a guy who's both the military and medical, how are we parents, as troop leaders in Boy Scouts, as teachers who have their head on straight, anyone who's influential over children all the way up until they and out of college, how do we influence them properly when they have this pretty much drumbeat that they hear from many of the other side of the influencers, the media you just mentioned? How do we become proper guardrails on the one hand and proper guiders and map cartographers, if you will, on the other hand? I think this program is going to be about guardrails and maps. And a lot of these children have no guardrails, and they have not been shown the proper map. What is your advice, how people can be the weight behind the spear?
Well, number one, realizing that what you do every single day matters. Like our best resource in this country, it's people. It's our teachers, coaches, volunteers, and families. And then the second part of that is they then do something with it. This generation has lived on iPads and TV, just like that social isolation. You shut them out of schools, churches, and their communities. It has to be face-to-face. So I want people to get out there and be that mentor, be that example. Go coach Little League, coach some soccer, volunteer in your church, in your schools, or take your kids to the animal shelter. Those animals can be emotional support animals for somebody, but it has to be face-to-face, and you have to demonstrate what it means to be a citizen, servant leadership, purpose-driven leadership, and it's got to be face-to-face. Get out there and volunteer.
How much of that interaction with the people that you have authority over, how important in that interaction is, for lack of a better word, tough love, accountability? Because in the justice system these days, we don't really have much accountability. Look at what happened. Luis Mangione. They took the death sentence off the table because of some cockamamie, silly judicial process rule. I mean, our court crazy, Josh. They're not meting out proper accountability. I guess it's left to people who are the if you take advantage of the don't work, don't go to school, walk out, don't shop day that the left is promoting. Shouldn't there be consequences? Shouldn't there be some tough love?
Yeah, when you remove accountability from people's decision making, like they're not accountable for those actions, that's where they make stupid decisions. And that's where you see things descend to Lord of the Flies. Right here in North Carolina, like everyone is familiar with Irina Zarutska. Those soft on crime policies that Josh Stein, Rachel Hunt, Roy Cooper did, just the rising crime. This is a beautiful young woman just heading home from work on a Friday night, sits on a bus and gets murdered on camera by a gentleman that had been arrested 14 times. and kicked right out the door. So we have to have accountability. Without accountability, you're nothing. And I'm obviously a military commander and big on accountability. And people thrive when they're held accountable.
Yeah.
They really do.
You know, as the head of a disaster relief nonprofit, it's called the Weight Behind the Spear Foundation. What is your advice for people who might find themselves innocently connected with one of these protests? Because these things are breaking out all over. You see, we've had instances before where someone's just trying to make their way across town. Their route takes them through one of these things, and next thing you know, the people are beating on their car, breaking their windows. We saw this in Minneapolis. I mean, people, were frightened out of their gourd. What tactically, I guess, put on your military hat. What do you do if you're not a special forces dude, you're not armed, many people aren't. What the hell do you do if you find yourself just innocently caught in one of these protests? Maybe you're working in a building. The ICE building in LA was vandalized and set on fire. What do you do if you're just a clerk in the mailroom and you're trying to get out and go home and eat dinner with your family?
Yeah, I mean, so that illustrates that point perfectly. You have a First Amendment right to protest peacefully, gather, go march on the National Mall. The instant there's like violence and just screaming, like, horrific, like assaulting officers verbally and physically, you have to remove yourself. It's just so bizarre that even the media is portraying that as appropriate behavior and it's peaceful demonstration. Everyone can see it. One of my friends, I always go back to Portland, and then I've got actually a colleague in Minneapolis right now. So I do emergency management. He has boots on the ground in Minneapolis. I talked to him last week, and just, what's going on? I mean, is what we're seeing on TV? And he just was so blunt. He's like, listen, Josh, it is exactly what you're seeing on TV. It is clearly not peaceful. You have to remove yourself from those situations. If you're caught in something like that, I mean, you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. You got to get out of there.
Yeah, you're into a bumblebee's nest. Do I understand, before we let you go, do I understand that you were a student of Tim Walz at one point or somehow intersected with him?
Yeah, which is crazy. So I've known Tim Walz. So he was my teacher in the early 1990s, like 92, 93. And to watch what he's become, I ran into him again in 2017 when he was in Congress. So he was a 3-term congressman. I was at a national security course. I was a lieutenant colonel. And just like, hey, boy, my old teacher is in Congress. Let me go pay a visit. And he was a great teacher. Was a very likable guy, just a wonderful teacher. 2017 was very reasonable, remembered me. My brother was terrible, got in trouble all the time. And he remembered my mom because he talked to her so much. And then he ran for governor, and he went so far left and is so bizarre. Yeah. It was very disappointing to see what happened. And then you see like the stolen valor. He didn't serve in combat. He did not retire command sergeant major. Just those types of it's so disappointing to see that. Yeah. I mean, I've known the guy for over 30 years. Man.
Yeah, that's terrible. Well, Dr. Colonel Josh McConkey, you well know that, exposure to the cold weather does make you more susceptible to viruses. Apparently, the cold of Minnesota somehow weakened his mucous membranes, his IgA defense against the Trump derangement syndrome virus, and he appears to have been radically and fatally infected with it, apparently. Dr. Josh McConkey and Colonel McConkey joins us, and make sure you pick up his book, Be the Weight Behind the Spear. Thanks for your analysis and insights. Very, very helpful today. And we hope to talk to you real soon, Josh. Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
All right. Yeah, I mean, can you imagine a guy with has been, in emergency preparedness, helping people in their time of need when they're desperate, and people come together, and the contrast, watching what he is now watching on the screen. I mean, it's just amazing. I don't know. He seems to be managing that cognitive dissonance pretty well, though. When we come back, some sweet irony. And maybe I'll just admonish you not to eat any bananas and rice ahead of that. When we come back on the Tobler Show, News Talk STL. That's 1019 941. Alexa, the app, which is fabulous. Of course, on the web, you can get us everywhere. We'll be here till 9. Hope you'll stay with us.
You guys are a shining beacon of liberty in these dark and troubled times on the airwave.
about race relations.
This conversation has completely made me crazy.
This is complete insanity.
And I'm sick and tired of it.
1019 and 94.1.
I find it to be a conversation starter.
News Talk STL.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on NewsTalkSTL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Looking for the perfect way to say I love you this Valentine's Day? Anthony's Produce has you covered. Get our amazing combo special. 1 dozen beautiful roses and 1 dozen delicious chocolate-covered strawberries for just $39.99. It's romance made easy. Available February 9th through the 15th only, so don't wait. Order online at anthonysproduce.com. Call 636-936-0496 or visit us at 701 Jungerman Road.
Hey, folks, Jamie Allman here for Newstetter's Fine Jewelry right there at Doherty Ferry and Big Bend. WowDiamonds.com. It's Wow Diamonds for a reason. These are beautiful lab-grown diamonds. They are gorgeous. They will blind you when you walk in and see them, but that's a good thing. Great engagement sets, wedding sets, all these beautiful God-created gems, sapphires, rubies, you name it, garnets, and also all the gold you need, and the famous bull of a watch, WowDiamonds.com.
Hey, it's Susie Moore. If new flooring makes you think hassle, think again, because Michael's Flooring is changing the game. For over 30 years, Michael's has been locally owned and trusted for quality, variety, and amazing service. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, laminate, luxury vinyl, or ceramic tile, their expert team makes installing new floors exciting, not stressful. That's why customers keep coming back. Visit Michael's Flooring at St. Peter's, Starting Prairie, Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
Need promotional products or apparel for your business? Look no further than Blue Sky Promotions. This woman-owned, locally operated company in Bridgeton specializes in anything and everything promotional. From branded apparel and uniforms to custom giveaways and marketing materials, Blue Sky Promotions has you covered. Whether you're looking to stand out at a trade show, build brand awareness, or reward your employees, Blue Sky Promotions has the solutions you need. Visit blueskypromotions.com or call 314-739-3531.
License number GL250000615.
Hey, it's good to see you.
Home power used to be simple. Now the car plugs in, the scooter plugs in, the space heater plugs in, and your electric panel starts popping.
That sounds bad, but I like popcorn.
Popcorn is great, sparks are not. Call Grasser. We'll upgrade your panel so you can run it all.
Electric and plumbing, the Grasser way.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeServices.com.
Duck and goose season still on, and Whistle Pig Outdoors has everything you need to finish strong. Hey, it's Mike Ferguson, and right now get 40% off all Taka hunting clothing in Mossy Oak Bottomland. Bow broken? Well, their archery pro shop sells Hoyt and Bear bows, custom arrows, and they provide expert service. Whistle Pig Outdoors on Main Street in Troy, or visit whistlepigoutdoors.com. Whistlepigoutdoors.com. Whistle Pig, get back out there.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com.
I couldn't sleep at all last night. Just thinking of you. Maybe things weren't right. Well, I was tossing and turning and tossing and turning all night.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli. Come hang out with Ken Williams and me every Monday through Friday from 9 to 11. But right now, it's back to the Randy Tobler Show on 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hugging his kid. And, you know, I've imagined it's uncomfortable and traumatic for the people here. But again, careful, it's very slippery right here. Yeah. It's uncomfortable and traumatic for the people here, but that's what really, careful, please, really slippery. Not kidding. That's what protesting is about. And so.
Now, isn't that interesting? Don Lemon That was before they were, or maybe after. Yeah, I think it was before they were going to go into the church. But he was like, careful, it's slippery out here. Protesting is about making people uncomfortable. And in earlier clips, he said, I'm going to turn off the cameras here because the instigators, my words, he said the people that he was in contact with and aided and abetted and then became a part of that storming of the church service. There's all kinds of evidence. Now, that's one of the themes that's bothering me more and more, too. Us common people who just look at something and look at the bare facts of it say, well, clearly he was not acting in just a journalistic capacity. He was filming and doing his interview with the pastor, all the while aiding and abetting these people, making overt statements afterwards that this was about you needed to go into places with white people worshiping because it's white supremacy within 24 hours of the event, storming the church. So there's no doubt that he was a part of this. You can clearly see he was trying to use the First Amendment as a faux shield for his activism. We see that. The courts, however, are so screwed up, just absolutely screwed up, that they just don't recognize facts and truth and justice and the way it should be. So I don't know how do we crack that nut? It's an interesting question. Maybe you have an answer. 314-912-1019. I mean, I am as angry at the court system and the so-called justice system in this country as I am at the media. Maybe more so, because the media can't make people accountable. The court system can and should and isn't in many ways, both civil courts and criminal courts. And I think if there ever is a revolution in this country, I think it might involve the courts first. I don't know. But they're now manned and staffed by many people, even if they're so-called Bush appointees. If you're in a blue jurisdiction, the senators will not allow any kind of a true conservative, originalist, textualist kind of a judge, because the senators have to sign off on those nominees, So you get some kind of a soft, limp noodle, so-called Republican, and that's the kind of magistrates that wouldn't sign off on the arrest of Don Lemon, and then the senior magistrate wouldn't, and then the appellate court wouldn't. So they had to go to a grand jury. And every legal authority that I listened to, I've listened to several over the last 24 hours. It's like, forget about it. We'll see what Alan Mendenhall says. He's a lawyer and an economist, and boy, he's got a resume a mile long. We'll talk with him. He's from Heritage. That'll be at 8:05. We'll see what he says. But you begin to wonder, you pinch yourself, you say, man, are we living in a Twilight Zone America? I mean, it's so clear as can be that these are not peaceful protests. Alex Presti would have been alive had he been arrested and had been made accountable for his behavior in the first place a week before he was killed. And I have no doubt that while no one does, I hate to use the word deserves. I don't know. I don't want to use the word deserves. There are natural consequences of behavior. There are civil consequences of behavior. When you misbehave in settings that are inflamed and supercharged and have the potential to get you hurt, and you insert yourself into said situations, is anyone surprised that from time to time someone is going to get hurt? I mean, those are called consequences. If you ride with bald tires on a snow-slickened road, there might be some consequences. Most of the time, you'll make it to your destination. But very often, you'll end up hitting you'll end up in the ditch, or God forbid, hitting a light post or a telephone pole, and you might perish. Those are consequences of poor judgment. We've all been there and done that. If you haven't lived long, or you're lying, right, Jerome?
Oh, absolutely.
I know. We've all done it. Hopefully, we've done it mostly in our youth. Get it out of your system. That's called learning. And if you're a Somali, it's called leering.
No, you're correct.
But that's the way.
I was going to say you're correct, though. But the issue is that there are different degrees of mistakes that you can make, and there are different degrees of consequences that are sometimes warranted for those mistakes. You shouldn't call the SWAT team on a little kid that accidentally takes a pack of gum from the grocery store. But at the same time, when you insert yourself into a situation specifically against people that have training, firearms, and armor, and they have the full force of the law to protect them, then you need to really be considerate of the actions that you are taking in those moments and what they may be authorized to do against you. I mean, that even if you disagree with the outcome of it, that should just be common sense.
Yeah. I mean, that's why it's very difficult to do a show around this because, I mean, all of you who are listening, I mean, I would hope all of you have enough common sense in your mind to realize there's really not a lot to talk about. I mean, it's pretty plain and simple. So, I mean, as far as the act, the previous act, the behavior, and what happened. In retrospect, I'm sure one or more of those officers are going to get in trouble. One or more of those Border Patrol people are going to get in trouble, right? That's going to happen. When they come up with the DHS funding that they've now put on the shelf for 2 weeks, of course you didn't hear, the Senate passed the appropriations bill. They carved out the DHS funding, and they're going to agree with the president, agreed to somehow come up with a, quote, reform package over the next 2 weeks. You know what that's going to mean? I hope it means body cams. I want body cams on every one of them because the worst thing ever happened to the left, radical anarchist Trotsky, Lenin dust, whatever violent radical can I, Che Rivera's, the worst thing ever happened to them was body cams. One after another. It shows that they were hooligans. They deserved exactly what they got because they didn't respect law enforcement.
Or they were actively endangering people, and it was a justified. That's, I think, the greatest backfire of any political cause of my lifetime is the fact that my generation was sold on, once we get these body cams, we can hold police accountable for all the unjustified actions they take, how violent they are towards innocent people. And the moment that they started releasing body cam footage, it became immediate, like, oh, you shouldn't have been doing that. Like, it's like a chagrin emoji, right? Yeah. I mean, like, so there, and this one maybe in the memory hole of the media, but there was an Asian officer, I can't remember his name, responding to what was called a mental health crisis, ended up having to shoot the individual, and immediately the narrative was, wow, this police officer responded to somebody in a mental health crisis and murdered them. The body cam footage shows this big lady with a straight razor. The moment that he knocks on the door trying to check on her, she comes out swinging the razor at him.
Right.
He keeps backing up and backing up. He was cut a number of times, knocked to the ground before finally he fired the shots. It's like, good job. If not for the body cam, we would have all thought that a guy just showed up and murdered a lady, and in turn, it shows very much the opposite. So thank you for the body cams. Please give them to ICE.
Interesting incident. I hadn't heard that, or else I don't remember it. I don't think I'd heard about that one. But and again, in retrospect, is there a way to refine the interactions? Of course, we should learn from these things. But I'm sorry, in these kind of incidents, until it is grossly, overtly, with evidence of some kind of premeditated intent on the officer to take out one of these people, I'm sorry, tie goes to law enforcement. It's like a baseball deal, right? I mean, I'm sorry. Tie goes to the runner. Tie goes to the law enforcement officer. Yeah. Oh, there you go. You're showing the pictures. If you're not watching us on Rumble or Facebook or YouTube, you should do that. Yeah. So the woman came out crazed. She probably was mentally ill. That's sad. And sad things happen in the realm of human existence. It's the reality. It's where we live. It's the original sin lived, years later, right? That's what it is.
And I'm not saying that every time that an officer, shoots somebody that's going through a mental health thing, it's justified, of course. No. I mean, when you have severe issues or drug addictions or things like that, you're not going to always be acting rationally. But that kind of leads into with Preti, I think it's pretty cut and clear what. Now, I'm still not sold entirely that the shooting was justified. He was disarmed. I think that there's a lot of things we're getting wrong with the accuracy of the reporting, not on this show, but just on the right in general. But I will say, what led up to him deciding he wants to be the guy that shows up, spits at ICE officers, kicks out taillights, and then furthermore, after he gets out of that situation, goes to another situation and thinks it's okay to be acting like this? I think that's a very important question to ask.
You're right. Yep, two things can be true, right? It could be that the officers were just at their wits' end. They'd been spit on, they'd been thrown ice bottles on, they'd been assaulted, they'd been rammed with the SUVs, and they overreacted even in the moment. Could be, but the guy was an idiot. No matter what Anna Navarro says. When we come back, let's unpack what's going on in the economic world with Dave Hebert. We will do that in a few. Take a little break, fill up your coffee cup, listen to our sponsors. They keep this show on the air, this station on the air. Be back in a minute.
Talk about race relations.
This conversation has completely made me crazy.
This is complete insanity.
And I'm sick and tired of it.
1019 and 94.1.
I find it to be a conversation starter.
News Talk STL.
Looking for unbelievable deals? Stop by Overstock Outlet in Lake St. Louis or Warrenton. Open 7 days a week. Discover big savings on a huge variety of merchandise with no hassle. Just great prices. Visit us in Lake St. Louis on Highway N or in Warrenton on Boones Lake. Check out our Facebook page at Overstock Outlet Lake St. Louis. Or go online to OverstockOutletSTL.com. Unbeatable value, friendly service, and you never know what we'll have at Overstock Outlet.
Now, the Free Market Minute, brought to you by the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University.
Hey, it's Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show, and I'm here with Dr. Grant Black. And Grant, does having more economic freedom make a difference in people's lives, such as maybe helping reduce poverty?
It definitely makes a difference. Economic freedom is critical for fostering well-being and prosperity. It enables people to make their own choices and pursue their own interest, like choosing careers, starting businesses, and innovating to make the world better. It thrives in environments that empower people, promote competition, and protect property rights, all while being supported by limited and healthy government. Economic freedom is a catalyst for generating higher incomes, greater wealth, more opportunities, better access to education, and improved health at all levels of society. It makes a difference.
The John W. Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University fosters and examines market-oriented approaches to economic and social issues. To learn more, visit hammondinstitute.org.
Hey, it's Vic. If you have a tree that you think is dead, you can get Roots Plus to remove it for you. Or if you think the tree is savable, or if Roots Plus thinks it's savable, they can save your tree and you keep your cash. Call them and find out what that's all about at 314-440-3662. The crews are great. They get things done. They removed the tree for me, and they did expert work, and I definitely will put my name on their company. So save the tree with Roots Plus LLC. RootsPlusLLC.com.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
Very active, very fun chat box. Cinderfer.
Hi, Cinderfer.
Hey, how you doing? She says, yo, Vic, baby. Verbatim, yo, Vic, baby. With an exclamation point. How else are you supposed to read that? I was driving, had to pull over to comment. I was going to say how sexy the beard is, but I'm afraid of your wife.
Hey, I'll tell you what, I would be.
Vic Porcelli, live and local, weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL. If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Wherever I'm at, home, car, wherever.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Just the convenience on the phone. Streaming live on the mobile app.
Love the new app.
And listen anytime.
Everywhere.
Anywhere. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefontaine, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Breaking news at Town Hall. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. Arctic air moving into the southeast was expected to cause already frigid temperatures to plummet into the teens overnight in cities like Nashville. Bob Orebeck with the National Weather Service had this prediction Friday.
There's definitely a big winter storm that's going to be developing off the coast over the next 24 hours. And it's going to be spreading a pretty large area of heavy snow from eastern Tennessee into northeast Georgia, much of central to northern South Carolina, pretty much all of North Carolina, and southwest Virginia and a portion of southeastern Virginia.
With another wave of dangerous cold on its way to the U.S. South, experts say hypothermia is a serious risk for those living in some parts of Mississippi and Tennessee. Many are trapped in their homes with no electricity and in sub-freezing temperatures. IndyCar will be coming to the streets of the nation's capital this summer.
President Trump signed an executive order establishing the August 23rd IndyCar race in downtown Washington, D.C. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy told the president the nation's capital has never seen anything like this before.
To think 190 miles an hour down Pennsylvania Avenue, this is going to be wild.
The race is designed to be part of America's 250th birthday celebrations.
And that is Greg Clugston reporting. Politics had a big influence on the markets yesterday.
Stocks fell on Wall Street while gold and silver prices plunged as investors tried to gauge what President Donald Trump's new nominee to lead the Federal Reserve will mean for interest rates. The S&P 500 dropped 0.4% Friday. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 179 points. That's about 0.4%. The Nasdaq Composite gave back 0.9%. The value of the dollar rallied against other global currencies, but only after swiveling a couple of times. Huge rallies for gold and silver prices screeched to a halt. The price of gold dropped 11%. Silver plummeted by more than 30%. Seth Cito, New York.
More at townhall.com.
Whether you're preparing for exams, juggling family and career, or just looking to stay sharp as you age, Think Factor is here to help. Created by the same company that makes Relief Factor, Think Factor supports sharper focus, stronger recall, and clearer thinking. It's the natural way to give your brain the daily nutrients it needs for memory, attention, and even vibrant vision. Call 800-4-RELIEF. 800, the number 4-RELIEF, or visit relieffactor.com to learn more. Look, I was a little bit skeptical. I started taking Think Factor. After a few weeks, wow, my memory, my focus, my concentration, better than ever. And Think Factor results get better the longer it's taken. If you want to stay focused during demanding tasks, keep your memory strong, maintain mental energy for whatever's ahead, well, Think Factor is for you. Call 800-4-RELIEF. 800, the number 4-RELIEF, or visit relieffactor.com to learn more and order Think Factor. Your first bottle is just $19.95. Think Factor. Think clearer, perform better daily. Call 800-4-RELIEF or visit relieffactor.com for Think Factor.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Simply Health with Dr. Brian Deloney.
What if your body could actually repair itself and not just mask pain? This week on the show, we've got Dr. Nick Hassenfratz, and he is an expert in regenerative medicine. He's going to reveal how cutting-edge therapies help you rebuild joints, move better, and stay younger longer. This is the future of medicine. Make sure you tune in.
Simply Health, Saturdays at noon on News Talk STL. To find out more about Simply Health Integrated Medical, log on to simplyhealthintegrated.com.
Your business moves fast. PRI Global keeps it moving smarter for almost 30 years, delivering top tech talent to help companies grow stronger, custom applications, simplifying your operations, securing your data, modernizing your business from the cloud up. And with Prismatic, you're going to get real-time insights, automated workflows, people, process, platform. PRI Global delivers all three. PRIGlobal.com. 2026, a great time to visit Lit Cigar Lounge. The Lit Cigar Facebook has numerous events from tastings to music. My main reason for going to Lit is always quality cigars, premium whiskeys. Odds are we'll see each other at Lit Cigar Lounge. A few doors down, Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta. Get a pizza baked over coals. Excellent crust and flavor. Or choose one of the many great pasta dishes. You won't leave hungry. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta and Lit Cigar Lounge in the Chesterfield Valley.
Kathy Connor from Connor Roofing is here. Kathy, how you doing?
Good. Hi, Vic.
You know, when you need a roof, I don't want to call a stranger. I want to call you.
Yeah, thanks. At Connor Roofing, we're more than just a roofing company.
How long have you been doing it?
Since 1993.
And year after year, storm after storm, you guys are always there.
Because this is our home, too, Vic. Our kids go to school with your kids. We cheer for the same teams. Go Blues!
So support your neighbors. Call Connor Roofing at 314-375-7475 or CONNER roofing.com.
Thanks, Vic.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Did Donald Trump and Republicans make everything great again over the weekend? We'll discuss with Senator Jim Talent at 425. At 525, Red State Headlines with Susie Moore.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL. Randy Tobler, Truth warrior, woke destroyer. On News Talk STL. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. This is News Talk STL.
IEPA power you used on the tariffs, as you said, we're bringing in tens of trillions of investments. The tens of trillions of investments turns into factories construction, which turns into factory jobs, which turns into consumer spending. You've right-sized the government, so government employment is down. Private sector is up. Growth was a stunning 4.7, 4.8% in the past 2 quarters. Biggest back-to-back gains in a decade. And we are doing that with government finances improving. So that will bring down the borrowing costs.
Well, yesterday at the cabinet meeting, they might as well have just broken out into a chorus of, we're in the money, we're in. I mean, you'd have thought this litany of all the great things going on with the economy, and there are a lot of great things going on, was amazing. It's just amazing. Well, let's see what Dave Hebert thinks of that. Of course, he's our economist of record. Dave, you didn't know that, but, you know, with the high rate of pay that you charge us, we have to call you that. A senior research fellow at the American Institute for Economic Research and author of Economics Reality Check on Substack, which is a fabulous boy. If you guys want to have a nice distillation of what's going on from a digestible, for us non-economic Luddites out here, way to process what's going on in the economy, check out that Substack. It's really, really great. Dave, welcome. That you're staying warm. The furnace is cooking.
Thanks so much, Randy. We do have the furnace cooking, but I do have to repair it, so that's going to be a fun one.
Oh, no, that's not good, and especially with the supply chain disruption. And we have so much to talk about. I think you and I were talking about what we were going to cover this week, and it started out with some, well, I call them end arounds with international trade agreements going around to get around opening new markets for other countries that are, you know, some are friends, some aren't. We need to cover that. But then I saw the producer price index go up. Let's start there. We've talked about the potential hazard of tariffs. The Trump administration says, see what those tariffs do economically. They're bringing manufacturing back here, all this investment that's been promised. And where's all that inflation you guys were worried about? And by the way, it's a good diplomatic leverage point too. So what's your problem? Well, there's more to the story.
There certainly is, and there almost always is more to the story, right? We've known that there's more to the story for hundreds of years at this point. And here's kind of what we're seeing. So with this latest announcement about the producer price index, which remember, the producer price index is sort of the production analog to the consumer price index. So the consumer price index measures inflation by looking at prices that you and I and consumers pay at the store, right? The producer price index is looking at prices that producers are paying in order to produce the things that you and I buy. At some level, it's a measure of the cost of production. Okay. And what we've seen is that producer price index has been going up. In fact, it was the biggest gain in 5 months as businesses passing the tariffs on to their consumers, right? And this is exactly what we said was going to happen, and it's exactly what all the evidence is pointing to, not just from, me, not just from left-wing economists like Paul Krugman, but from right-leaning institutions like the University of Chicago. We also just had President Trump publish an opinion letter in the Wall Street Journal where he cites some research on who's paying the tariff. And here's the crazy thing, Randy. If you click the link to the article that Trump himself posts and you read just the first paragraph on page 1, it says that consumers are currently paying 20% of the tariffs and that this number is going up, and that American firms are eating almost all of the rest of it. And the president cites this report as evidence that foreigners are paying the tariffs. So it's a very strange world where we can't even get through the first paragraph of an admittedly boring academic paper, but it's in paragraph 1.
All right. Well, so, at the top of this, at this X post where I just grabbed that clip for play, where Bessent just listed off this laundry list of things, is all of this supposed trillions of dollars of reinvestment that are promised.
Yeah.
And if you look empirically at what happened during Trump 1, and I don't want this to be a Trump bashing session because there's a lot of that happens, but I think we need to be realistic and call out the facts and do some serious fact checking. Those investments are promised investments, and the data looking back, as I saw it, was the battery plant in Texas, or was it Wisconsin, and this plant and that plant only came to fruition about 30-40% of the time, right? Those things didn't really develop, and so I worry about that. And are we beginning to see now with this producer price index that their costs are continuing to go up? At some point, they're not going to continue to bear the weight of that. Won't that rain down on consumers? And what is the nomination of Kevin Warsh, who's allegedly a inflation hawk, to the Fed chair? What does that mean, assuming he ascends to that throne?
Right. So I think you're exactly right, Randy. Now look, the Trump administration obviously has done quite a few very good things. So like you, I don't want to just bash the president here. But we do, as you said, need to point out, what is true, right? And what's true right now is all of those investments that the president has, claimed has secured. Those are long-term investments coming over, several years. So it's no mystery to me that companies in the U.S. have promised very large investments and that they're beginning to build, a generic giant factory. But that generic giant factory can be used for basically anything. It's when the jobs start flowing into that building that really counts, right? And so right now, all the investment that we're seeing is either tentative and can be reversed, as we've seen with the EU, or it's very generic and what we call multi-specific. Basically, it means we can use that thing for lots and lots of different ends. Right. And so we can recoup those losses if we decide not to continue making those investments, going forward. With Kevin Warsh coming into the Fed, this is an absolutely fascinating pick, at least from my perspective. So last summer, Mr. Warsh, or Dr. Warsh, I guess, did an interview with Stanford University's Hoover Institution, where he just discussed his time with the Fed. Now, remember, Kevin was with the Federal Reserve from 2006 to 2011. So a really fun and dynamic time for him to be a Fed, chairperson, right? And so he comes in and he says in this that his goal, or that one of the things that he criticizes the Fed about, is to say that inflation is a choice. The central bank, in this case the Fed, can hit any inflation level that it wants, but we, as American people, might not like how they do it. That sounds to me like he's going to rein in inflation. And unfortunately for the president, and potentially us as well, that might mean that he's going to actually raise interest rates, not lower them.
Well, inflation is that insidious tax over which we have very little control as little individual, grains of sand in the American beach. And it's a real problem. Well, okay, let's zoom out now, because we're talking with Dave Hebert, excuse me, who is the author of the Substack great piece called Economic Reality Check. Thank you for mentioning the program, Dave, on your post yesterday. Appreciate that. And you can read Dave. You've seen Dave on the pages of the Wall Street Journal. That's a big deal. To get on the pages of the Wall Street Journal is a big deal. So that's neat. Now, and other great august organs. So the American economy doesn't run in a vacuum, even though many people would like to think so. And so there is the reality of a global market, right? So what's going on now in reaction to what the Trump administration is doing?
So, okay, well, to answer this question, we've got to back up just a tiny bit, and we've got to recognize that in the world, there are basically three economic superpowers and then maybe one or two kind of rising powers, right? So the three economic powers right now are the U.S., China, and the EU. The rising powers are things like India, maybe Japan, South Korea to an extent, the UK perhaps, right? But for the most part, it's the US, China, and the EU as the dominant economic superpowers. Now, here's the thing about international trade that's different today than it was in, say, the 1860s, okay? Today, countries aren't trading what we call final goods. the things that you and I would purchase at the store, and then go use at home for whatever, right? They are producing those final goods, but in the 1800s, that was basically everything that countries would send around the world. They would finish a good at home and send it abroad for consumers in that other country. Today, what we see are countries sending raw materials, right? So steel, aluminum, rubber, lumber, right? All things that go into final production that would happen in, a different country. So what does that mean for international trade? Well, now what it means is that countries are going to be less responsive to tariff threats or trade restrictions because they can simply send those goods to other countries instead. They don't have to send, U.S. goods to the U.S. They can send, wood to a different country. They can send steel or aluminum to a different country, and that country can use, those goods. So what we're seeing right now are other countries around the world signing new trade agreements with each other, deliberately excluding the U.S. So the latest ones would be the UK and South Korea. They just had a new deal just last month. Canada and China have a reset. They've been very clear to not call it a free trade agreement, but they are lowering tariffs and barriers to trade, between each other. And the newest one would be the EU and India. Now, the EU and India, that's an interesting one because those two economies combined account for over 2 billion people and over 25% of all world GDP. So that's a huge deal. Now, the EU has historically low tariffs on India, but India has had remarkably high tariffs on the rest of the world. And so if India is coming to the table and saying, hey, we want to sign a trade deal with other, groups other than the U.S., that's huge. That's a massive development for the Indian people and for the world.
Wow. Yeah, so it's the old proverbial end around our economy, and I guess from a focus standpoint, the tariffs, right? I mean, isn't that ultimately what this is about? They're not going to be held hostage to these tariffs, which are unpredictable at a minimum, and often draconian from their perspective in reality.
That's right. So, Jameson Greer, who is the U.S. Trade Representative, Howard Lutnick, Scott Bessent, Donald Trump, all point out that other countries, quote unquote, need access to the American market, right? If you're not going to do business with America, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot and leaving money on the table. But here's the thing. With all this uncertainty surrounding tariffs, right? Keep in mind that like the U.S. and Canada, for example, we have the longest undefended border in the entire world between us. We were historically like the best of friends. And all of a sudden, we're in sort of a trade war with them that just started in the last, year. So the rest of the world sees this and they say, whoa, if the U.S. is going to launch a trade war with their best friend, what are they going to do to me? So now what we're seeing is rather than trade theory represent, what we call comparative advantage, basically the idea of specialization, trade theory is starting to resemble portfolio theory, where countries are basically diversifying risk. They're not so much maximizing the upside of international trade, they're minimizing the downside, okay? And now that's a more complicated world for sure, but it's also a much more secure world from their perspective because they're no longer exposed to the whims and fancies of any particular person in the world. And here's where it matters. Even in 2028, when we're going to get a new president because Donald Trump is term limited, let's pretend we get this new person in who says, hey, we're going to sign all the free trade agreements. We're going to reduce, tariffs. We're going to go unilaterally if we need to. We're going to drop all these things back down, and we're going to say sorry to the rest of the world, right? Let's pretend that happens, or make it 2032, whichever year you want, right? Well, here's the thing. A factory built in India cannot be packed up and moved to Georgia, the United States. A factory built in Japan cannot be packed up and moved to Michigan. A car manufacturing plant that's built in Canada instead of the U.S. isn't going to come back to America just because the next president says sorry. Once the concrete is poured, it's there, and it's going to stay there for a long time.
And since you're talking to the agricultural state of Missouri, a plant that manufactures processed hydrolyzed soybeans for whatever kind of consumption in China or India or ever anywhere else. Guess what? They've developed an alternative source of soybeans called Brazil. And I think that's an analogy that is not lost on you either.
Right. That's exactly right. So, once these countries have these new trade deals in place, they become harder to walk back, even if the difference is positive, even if it would be better for them to come back to the United States. Once those deals are in place, they're kind of stuck. It's like signing a contract. You can break it, but this breaking of this contract requires tearing up factory space. And I don't know any country that's willing to do that.
So I think most of the audience, and I think I still am on the train, that I think that Trump's diagnosis maybe wasn't too off the mark, that there were countries that were taking advantage of us. We had like 0 or 1 or 2% tariff, and they had 10, 20, 30, a little bit of some evening of the leveling of the playing field. I never had an argument with that. We got to revisit that. We only have a minute left here, but it's almost like giving chemotherapy for a pimple. You know what I mean? Yeah, there were some problems.
Right.
We could have, right? I mean, but this is potentially giving some stuff that could have a lot of collateral damage. Is that a proper analysis of the tariff discussion?
I think it's accurate, right? I mean, you have a problem, you want to solve it, and what do? Well, shock and awe, overwhelming force. Unfortunately, that only works in the military. That doesn't work with diplomacy. And once you've just betrayed a friendship, right? Because that's ultimately what trade is. It's a relationship between countries, not just a business transaction. Once you've betrayed that friendship, that's the real damage.
Yeah. Well, I'm thankful for your friendship for this program and personally, Dave, and also for helping really do some fact checking. And by the way, thinking about that long game, and I'm not sure whether that has been thought out clearly. I hope members of the administration are reading your Substack, Economics Reality Check, and reading all the good stuff you write. Dave Hebert, we'll be touching base with you very, very soon, my friend. Thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Randy.
All right. I'm curious about your reaction, ladies and gentlemen. 314-912-1019. I think Dave is probably a fiscal conservative, is probably in terms of economics and everything. I don't know. I haven't had long conversations with him, but it's instructive to have a different view at this thing, looking at what's going on, some of the moving chess pieces on this board. Is it not? I don't know. Maybe it is. 314-912-1019. Give us a call. We'll be back in a few and talk about it.
You're the most cold-blooded man I've ever known.
Why, thank you, Doctor.
News, analysis, opinion.
It is unacceptable that our government comes in and takes people off the streets. Ice out now!
Conditions in the labor market appear to be gradually cooling, and inflation remains somewhat elevated.
How are we supposed to feed our families?
Daily information from the Israeli armed forces about preparativeness here in Israel.
1019 and 94.1.
You're the most reliable station I know. St. Louis is #1
for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
There's only one place you can get pizza cooked over coals. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield Valley. Of course, Napoli Brothers has a great selection of pasta dishes. Between the pizza and pasta, trust me, you will not leave hungry. Then, a few doors down, Lit Cigar Lounge, a wide variety of quality cigars, each offering a unique smoke. That cigar, some premium whiskey, all you need to do is enjoy. Lit Cigar Lounge and Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, Chesterfield Valley.
Why are you going to work? It's Sunday.
It's a brand new show on News Talk STL. JC's Sunday Showgram.
This is eagle watching season up in Alton. We'll have fascinating eagle facts this week. Also, a list of some of the worst bosses I've ever had. There's no shortage in the St. Louis radio business. Plus, we'll return to Moscow in our trip 1990 for the opening of the first Rusky McDonald's. All brought to you by the Weber Automotive Group.
Sunday morning, 7 to 9. Then podcast each Monday on NewsTalkSTL.com.
Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com is your one-stop shop for expert insured tree care and more in the greater St. Louis region and at the Lake of the Ozarks. Visit hansonstree.com for 24/7 emergency tree care, grinding and land clearing, awesome organic mulch, green resource recycling, and more. Tim Jones here to tell you that whether you're dealing with old man winter at your home or business in the St. Louis region or preparing your lake home for spring, call Hanson's to help you out. No job too big or too small. Mention News Talk STL. Receive 10% off all tree care services. hansonstree.com, hansonstree.com.
Hey, Jamie Allman here. When your car needs attention, trust who I trust. Benchmark Complete Auto in Valley Park. 25 years as a family-owned and operated company, Benchmark is your Napa Auto Care Center for nearly every maintenance and repair, using the latest technology and top-quality parts. Need help with the bill? Well, ask about Napa's Easy Pay financing. Mention Jamie Allman and News Talk STL and get 10% off. BenchmarkAutoRepair.com, BenchmarkAutoRepair.com.
Why leave your company's story to chance? In today's digital world, video content isn't just an option. It's essential for your success. At Blue Ocean Media Group, we've spent decades crafting compelling visual stories for businesses just like yours. From concept to completion, our award-winning team transforms your vision into powerful video content that connects with your audience and drives results. Don't trust your brand to amateurs. Partner with Blue Ocean Media Group. Visit blueoceanmediagroup.com today, and let's bring your story to life.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go. And pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines.
800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. That's 800-515-2397.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com.
Hi, it's Ken Williams, producer and Thunder Stealer for the Vic Porcelli Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 a.m. on News Talk STL. But right now, let's get back to Randy Tobler Show on News Talk STL.
And this idea, you can't criticize ICE because you're criticizing law enforcement. They are not law enforcement. They are not professionals. How dare they slander that? And you can have J.D. Vance and you can have these people slander my police, saying, well, if Minneapolis and Minnesota's police would help us more or whatever, it's because we're professionals and we're taking care of the people.
Well, Tim Walz displaying the ravages of a terrible virus that's really, I think it's probably really existentially probably worse than COVID. This is not to minimize those of you who may have personally suffered or had family members who suffered as much as, mortality over it. But my God, people are suffering, and this country will suffer when you have a guy like Tim Walz or small fry, Jacob Fry, suffering such ravages of TDS in such positions of power, saying that the ICE professionals aren't professionals. Hey, we got a caller on the line who's a consummate professional, a great American, a great patriot, knows a little bit about professionalism, esprit de corps, appropriate behavior, guardrails, and maps for living. He's a good friend of mine, the show, Brock Ayers. Brock, welcome into the program. Hard to watch what's going on. You just shake your head, don't you?
Yeah, good morning, Randy and Jerome. It is hard to watch. Just on the last segment with Dave and watching some of what's transpired, you reminded of the Churchill quote, Americans will eventually find their way after they've tried everything else. So,
yeah, good reminder.
It's just, it is almost surreal sometimes to watch. Yeah. But anyway, I was calling in on a little bit of a brighter note today.
Yes, we need that.
Well, given your first segment, and of course your father is a teacher and everything, it's my father is 90 years old today. Wow. Ron Ayers originally of Flora, Illinois, was elected to their high school Hall of Fame this year for basketball, which thrilled him. He currently lives in Cedarhurst facility in Breeze, Illinois. But growing up in Freeburg, Illinois, he was a high school coach, teacher of the year, taught physics and biology, and still holds some pitching records at SIU Carbondale, had a tryout with the St. Louis Browns. And I just think back to growing up in a community like Freeburg, a coach had and a mentor like that. He coached all my little league teams. He impacted, hundreds, if not thousands of, young lives in his years as a teacher. And then he entered the investment business in 1968 and spent 40 years at A.G. Edwards, where he also had a sterling reputation. So we're headed over to Illinois today to celebrate of a very solid citizen, a great mentor, and just thinking about this era and how much a person like that can impact people.
Yeah.
And I think we need more of that. We need more grace. I think Dave Hebert's right that we need, alternate opinions to hear. Those things are all important to us functioning properly. And I'm just glad I grew up in a small town in Illinois in an era before social media.
Sounds like I'm hearing you say that my yearning and quest for culturally in this country, guardrails and maps, right? I mean, I think from a biblical perspective, right? There's sort of like, don't do this, do that. and we've lost the consensus on what are reasonable guardrails in a free society and what are generally, positive maps in the right direction to the right place. And it seems like everyone now makes their own guardrails and sets their own course, and everyone else needs to be responsible for it when it all goes bad, because we seem to have lost our norms that used to be just woven into our society and the default expectations, right or wrong?
No, I'm in full agreement. You do have to have standards and expectations and, goals to strive for. I think those are all, noble and important and worthwhile. And it is disconcerting to see sometimes. And yet every now and then we'll see a flash of that coming back in some areas. So
no, you're right. You're right.
I think that's critically important too. So we just have to keep talking about it, and in our own ways and the people we're around, try to uphold those ideals, I think.
Good advice from Brock, who, of course, has been so involved in educating our youth at Westminster and supporting the great work done at the Churchill Museum and on and on. I know you sponsored you're the founder of the Blue Blazer Club out there, right? So teaching kids about economics as well. So thanks for all that, and thanks for all you do for the show, Brock. Appreciate it.
Well, thank
say
you.
Hi to,
and
say hi to Dad. Make
I-
sure you
I
give
will.
our best to Dad, okay?
Long today. We'll have a good time. So
all right,
thank you
thanks.
both very much, and keep up the great work.
We will. Thank you. It's important to have conversations like that and remind ourselves that all is not lost. It's not all doom and gloom. However, we are fighting against some serious headwinds. Now, epic movies are made about heroes that do that. Braveheart. We think about the movies about the American Revolution and other triumphs against adversity. And right now, Christians are under persecution. Traditionalists are under persecution. Nuclear family advocates are under persecution. I think that's a proper term. Persecution is right. Ridicule at a minimum. And that's why I think so many good things that come out of the Trump administration we need to celebrate. And that's why the critique, the careful, constructively meant critique of the Trump administration is so important, because we need to continue all of the good things going on with the administration. And I think unless there's some guardrails put on their behavior and policies from places, you're going to lose the middle. They've already lost a lot of the young women, some of whom voted for Trump in 24. They're losing some of the Hispanic and black vote, I understand, at least in the polling. Maybe the polling's wrong. I hope it's wrong. So you can take all that's been accomplished, all the many, many, many good things that have been accomplished, but you can lose it all by getting out over your skis. I think they call it Jerome swag. Is that what it's called? Swag?
Yeah, that's that'd be a good way of saying it. Now I think the kids are calling it clout these days.
Call it what?
Clout. CLOUT.
Clout. Okay, well, I don't know. If you want to exert clout, you have to. If you have clout and you want to exert clout, you have to have some restraint at times, right? Right? It's that old you don't want to give chemotherapy for a pimple idea, right? You got to be careful.
Well,
and that's the
sorry, go on.
That's the sad thing about what we see on the media fabrication. I mean, all the way from starting the video of Alex Pretty or Renee Good at the moment of the shooting, or 5 seconds before, rather than looking at the context, looking at what didn't happen a week earlier when he clearly was in violation of law, and pointing out that clearly the local authorities did not fulfill their duties to protect people, whether they were ICE agents or not, but protect them from the public. And there's so much wrong, but so that's the problem. We don't have proper context of where these things actually are going and what led to them. It's our job to point that out, isn't it not?
Well, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding in the public eye about what the different forms of law enforcement are allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. And there's a lot of ignorance regarding what protesters are legally allowed and not allowed to do. And so the people that want to build this rapport and be seen as fighting injustice and going against tyranny are actually doing a lot of things that are not protected by the First Amendment right, to peacefully assemble and to voice grievances against the government. The people that you see not getting themselves taken down and dragged around and in actual altercations are the ones that are actually doing it properly. They can still yell, they can still scream, they can still do their stuff, but they're doing it within the proper realm of what they can do. And lo and behold, maybe that's why they're not the ones being dragged to the ground and pepper sprayed and beaten and shot. And at the same time, Walz's statement, I think, is extremely misrepresentative because, and I have not had the time personally to go and look up the Minnesota Police Department's protocols, but we do know for a fact that they have not been necessarily encouraged to be respondent towards calls for assistance from ICE. But the way that ICE operates, they are a federal agency. They are law enforcement. They have different prohibitions on their behavior, but there are also different things that they are allowed to do that I think people just wish they couldn't do. And that's where a lot of the stuff goes. You can't go to a federal agent and expect them to be beholden to the same code of conduct and standards and protocols, even within states. Texas and Florida police have a completely different SOP, standard operating procedure, than what you see with Washington and Minnesota and California. And I think people don't understand the nuance of that, or they don't want to understand the nuance of it. I was a unarmed security officer for a while for a trucking logistics yard, but I did go through the handbook for the armed guard training, and we were, even when you were authorized to carry a firearm while being a security officer, you could not perform 99% of the duties that a actual police officer would. So the way that police officers could behave and an armed security guard could behave completely different. The way that city and maybe state police versus federal agents behave are going to be completely different. And I don't think anybody is really seriously that is supporting or outraged by what happened to Renee Good and by Alex Pretty are interested in actually looking up and seeing the nuance of that. I think that they just want to view everything in a blanket worldview, and it matters more about how it makes them feel than it does for them to be factually correct.
Yeah, it's about the narrative and about feelings rather than about logic and the law. I mean, I was internally, emotionally, violently angry about Obamacare. But when I ran a hospital and when I've run the practice, I have to abide by Obamacare. Well, the kind of practice I do now, I don't deal with insurance, so I'm left out of a lot of that, which is a very nice feeling for me and my patients. But pretty soon there won't be those safe harbors. The more that the government gets control of our lives and the economics around the goods and services we need, and it happens under both Democrat and Republican administrations, the fewer safe harbors you have, which is why I've also been such a radical advocate on the air, not violently, but a radical advocate for decentralization. If Minneapolis and Minnesota wants to have Leering centers, that's fine. And if they want to tax the earners, the workers of Minnesota, to give to false daycare center operators, hospice facilities. I saw a bunch of clips the other day. Dr. Oz is out there documenting, I don't know if it was Minneapolis or LA, hospice, 42 hospices on like one strip mall a block or two long. Really? They're not giving hospice service. They're getting hospice money. But if that's okay, if Minnesota wants to do that, if California wants to do that, and if the inhabitants of those states and the citizens want to earn their money and give it to the government to do that, God love them. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I don't want my money going to a central government that in one way or another supports that kind of stuff, right? Now, that's another large discussion. When we come back, we have, I would maintain that we have a federal elected minority leader who should be jailed for felonious threat. And I will prove it when we come back on the Randy Tobler Show. 1019-94.1 News Talk STL. Listen and then tell me when I'm wrong when we return.
Switch broke 'cause it's old. They're saying things that I can hardly believe. They really think we're getting out of control. Radio is a sound salvation.
These are interesting times, aren't they?
We'll be right back.
Number one for live and local conservative talk.
Enough. No drugs, no theft, none of that. Get all of that out of the country. The Democrat Party is gone. It hates the country. It hates the Constitution.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli here with our great friend Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management. Hi, Chris.
How are you, Vic?
I don't want to put anybody else down, but that when you go up and visit you at Serenity Wealth, your place looks like home.
So a lot of financial advisory offices, they have, the big mahogany desk or the big marble entryways and things like that. The stock market channel on the TV when you walk in the door, right? That doesn't really drive a good conversation. Good financial guidance and advice starts with a good conversation. People are nervous. People are afraid to talk about finances, right? And so you can see a little standoffish. Well, my objective is to try to have a good, casual conversation. By having those conversations about life, goals, objectives, it's what makes me understand what our financials are supposed to fund.
So if somebody does want to have a good conversation, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Our website is the best way to do that because you can get all the information you need to understand where we are, get a little bit more information, all that. SerenityWealthNow.com.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
I've got Dr. Michael Lewis here, West Point graduate, physician, and retired Army colonel. Is considered the world's leading expert on the use of omega-3s for traumatic brain injury and concussions. Stuart Tomp brings over 30 years of experience in the supplement industry, brought $1 billion of products to the market, and has appeared in over 6,000 media interviews worldwide, and travels internationally and teaches on health.
Stuart Tomp here, and I've come across the biggest breakthrough in personalized nutrition I've seen in 25 years.
Dr. Lewis here. For the first time, we can measure cellular and gut health. So you can start testing and stop guessing and make decisions based on real data. I'm working with world-class scientists and physicians, and what they're doing is changing everything.
You can message me at elizabeth@statmedicalllc.com. That is Elizabeth at statmedicalllc.com.
Yo, this is Vic. Vic for Vets is proudly honoring our veterans. Every Wednesday at 11:05, you'll hear about that day's honoree and their incredible service to our country.
Hi, it's Ken. You want to nominate a veteran? Send their name, service information, and story to me, Ken, at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Brought to you by Alamo Military Collectibles, Gemini Wealth Group, and Heroes Care.
Together, let's celebrate the heroes in our community, Vic for Vets, where honor meets gratitude.
Ever feel like just a number in a waiting room? Hi, I'm Shannon Tribune, Director of Operations with Body of Health Direct Primary Care. Navigating the medical system can be a maze of stress. I'm your personal guide at Body of Health. I handle the messy parts of medical care, the logistics and complex coordination both in and outside our walls, so you and Dr. Tobler, that's my dad, can focus on what matters most, your health. At Body of Health, you're not just a patient, you're part of the family, because that's healthcare the way it ought to be. To learn more, schedule a discovery call at bodyofhealth.com.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com.
This is Larry Connors. Right now, you're listening to Dr. Randy Tobler. Informative, engaging, enjoy. And I invite you to listen to the Larry Connors USA Daily Report, Monday through Friday at 6.
Well, thank you, Larry. I listened last night. Great show again last night. Every show's great. Sometimes my wife has to pull me away from the News Talk STL app and get some work done. You know, I get sort of engrossed. You too? It happens. I'm glad you're here. So Jerome and I are holding forth trying to figure out why we have two Americas and why we seem to have sort of lost our way in America, where there's really no common agreement on at least some default behavior that's just expected of citizens. And when you go outside those boundaries, those guardrails, there's consequences. Everyone sort of recognizes it. Everyone stays in their lane, and it's all good. And by the same token, when you're in a valley and you get a little help, there are people there to shine the light. I think about the old triptych. Jerome has no clue what a triptych is. Well, many people do. There used to be the old AAA. You'd go in before maps and electronics. You'd go and say, I want to take Route 66 down through Arizona and up through Barstow and over to San Francisco. We used to do that as a kid. Dad taught at Lindbergh School District, and right as school let out on Christmas holiday, we'd head out and take the big road trip. And we'd go to triptych AAA, and the guy would take the magic marker, and they'd put in sheets all along the way. Oh, you want to stop at the Great Meteor Crater? You want to go to the Wigwam outside of Tulsa? Whatever. And well, here's the way you go. Little page after page, and they would create your own little personal guidebook. We've lost guidebooks for living in this country. Oh, maybe it's because no one's reading their Bible or going to church. Well, that's coming back too. So there's hope. That's good. And if you don't read your Bible or church, but yet you still behave properly, it's because your mom or dad did, or their mom or dad did, or their mom or dad did. Well, now it's okay for federal officials, federal elected officials, legislators, to essentially put out a verbal contract on members of the administration that they disagree with. What, Randy? You say, come on, what are you talking about? Oh, no, I got the proof. Jerome, I got the proof, right? So this is one Hakeem. I tried out for Dawn of the Dead and got cut. Jefferies. Did you see Dawn of the Dead? You know what I mean? Maybe Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I couldn't put it. Those eyes. I'm like, there's something about those eyes. It's a Twilight Zone. That's something I've seen in the past. And then I figured it out. I think it's Dawn of the Dead.
I think he was an extra in the Thriller music video, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the Thriller. That's it. It's Thriller. Hakeem, I tried out for Thriller and didn't make it. Jefferies. He put out a verbal fatwa, a contract, call it what you will, on Kristi Noem. Listen to this, ladies and gentlemen, and tell me where I'm wrong. Listen.
It's disgraceful. She's got to go. We are dead serious. She needs to be put on ice permanently. She's got to go. And by the way, she's not the only one.
Whoa!
Wow.
Now I've heard about when I had a party for last summer. I forget, it was for a birthday or for someone. I remember my wife saying, "Hey, Randy, we don't have enough room in the fridge for all the beer and the sodas, so go get some ice, put it in the cooler, and put the beer in the cooler with the ice." I don't think she said put it on ice. Maybe she did. Last time I checked, when you talk about someone and putting them on ice, that's a call for their murder. I'm sorry. Look it up. Google it. AI it.
Yeah, I don't think that he was referring to putting her on board, like a board of commission overseeing ICE permanently. I think I've heard that phrase. The same thing with when the whole 8647 seashell fiasco. I mean, I grew up in the area, including with the law enforcement people that I knew, and the not so good people. Everybody understood that 86 was a reference to death or murder. Putting somebody on ICE permanently, I mean, what is he going to say next? She needs to sleep with the fishes, but I mean in a sense of like a scuba diver tank taking a nap and then the aquarium. No, it's clear to anybody that is being intellectually honest exactly what he means by this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. That is, and especially in this supercharged environment where whack jobs will listen to officials, to people that they see or hear on the TV or radio, and they'll go out and act on it. The people that guy that shot up the Republicans, practice in baseball. And others. I mean, the crazy people do things like that. I'm sorry, I don't know any. Now, but yet at the same time, Donald Trump was prosecuted, persecuted, constantly denigrated by the media for saying you need to peacefully go to the Capitol and protest, right? Isn't this a goose and a gander thing? I don't know any other way to look at it. Of course, it won't be interpreted that way. The media will defend him. The media will say, well, of course, we don't mean that. That was a little play on words because it's all about ICE and whatever. I'm sorry. If it's okay to prosecute Donald Trump for something he never said, and look, even if you want to say that Trump used the word fight, we have to fight for, what's right. Okay, that doesn't mean kill. Fight doesn't mean kill. I've been in fights. You've been in fights, Jerome. We've all been in fights. Doesn't mean kill. Sometimes they're white-collar fights. Sometimes they're fisticuff fights. Yeah, when you're a kid, you get in a little fight on the playground, right? Doesn't mean go out and kill someone.
Well, yeah, but so, again, this comes in the context of I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but there was a Democrat that's running for either Congress or Senate that basically made a statement saying, I'm going to kill Donald Trump, and then backed up and said, and what I mean by that is that I'm going to get him lawfully prosecuted by a jury of peers, and then we're going to use capital punishment legally to then, lawfully perform, the capital punishment, and that's what I really mean. It's like you are trying to do everything you can to toe the line, to get away with these little snide games, like a little kid that does tag no tag backs.
That's right.
Yeah, and then I'm not touching you while their fingers in your face. They think that's the mentality of these people, and they think that. So on the one hand, we all see this, but the people that support it are either dumb enough to believe that at face value what they're saying, or that they are trying to say they get in on it because they think it's cute and funny to play these sort of semantic games.
So what Donald Trump said was, I know that everyone here will soon be moving over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Later, he said, and after this, we're going to walk down. I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. I'm just verbatim. We're going to walk down to the Capitol. We're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women. We're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them. So we're going to walk down to Pennsylvania Avenue. We're going to go to the Capitol. We're going to try and give our Republicans, the weak ones, because the strong ones don't need any of our help. We're going to try and give them the kind of pride and boldness that they need to take our country back. Now, play the Hakeem Jefferies thing again. That's what Donald Trump was prosecuted for and was impeached for. Go ahead, play it again.
It's disgraceful. She's got to go. We are dead serious. She needs to be put on ice permanently. She's got to go. And by the way, she's not the only one. It's disgraceful.
He should be in handcuffs today. He should be in jail. Is there any other way to analyze this? That's a threat against a cabinet member, and that's in violation. I had the code, U.S. code something. I'll find it. And when we talk to Alan Mendenhall, top of the hour, I can find it. That basically says that you cannot threaten a cabinet member, the director of an administrative department. I found it. I went and researched. I did that last night. That's why I'm a little tired today. I stayed up late because this thing really caught my eye and ear, and I thought, whoa, that's over the line. But you know what? Nothing will happen.
Nope.
Nothing will happen. You'll get away with it.
Because common sense would say, it would be one thing if there was like a smirk or a little bit of a chuckle, something to indicate he's making a pun about ice, right? The fact that he says, I'm dead serious, and by the way, she's not the only one, I mean, that is very permissive. That is very much, this person needs to eliminate something horrible that will put them on ice permanently, which, I mean, come on, we all know what that means.
Permanently.
Needs to happen to her as well as these other individuals. And that is,
I mean,
that's ridiculous.
The big long drawers in the morgue are very cold, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just saying. This is really very chilling stuff to come out of the minority leader of the House of Representatives. Really? That there's not at a minimum mention of it on the CNNs or the MSNBCs and at a minimum to say, well, the right, we know what the right will say, but they're just all worked up and they got their panties in a wad over this. But they know not to go there because they know that their emperor and empresses and their legions and their minions of unpatriotic America haters will fire back and take off their clothes. We'll be back with Alan Mendenhall and talk about Don Lemon, Luigi Mangione, and, yes, Hakeem. I tried out for Thriller and didn't make it, Jefferies. When we come back on the Tobler Show, 101.9 News Talk STL.
How you was, where you could be found.
Looking for an underwater adventure or a scaly new friend? Dive into Tropical World Pets on Watson Road. For 32 years, this family-owned wonderland has been St. Louis's go-to destination for all things aquatic and reptilian. With over 7,000 square feet of aquariums, we're home to the area's largest selection of freshwater fish, including rare cichlids you won't find anywhere else. But that's not all. We've got tarantulas, snakes, and lizards galore. Tropical World Pets, 314-849-4020, or visit twpstl.com.
When water troubles strike, call the family you can trust. Tim Jones here for Ambassador Plumbing, serving our community since 2018 with 25 years of master plumbing expertise from Tim Morris and his hand-picked team. Whether it's a simple faucet repair or a complete bathroom remodel, if water runs to it or through it, they do it. From residential service calls to commercial to new construction, the folks at Ambassador are your neighbors treating you like family. Ambassador Plumbing, where faith meets craftsmanship. 636-383-6932 or ambassadorplumbing.com. That's ambassadorplumbing.com.
Hunters, you know what's going on. Duck and goose season. Finish strong with Whistle Pig Outdoors. Mike Ferguson here. Get your ice rippers to punch through that frozen water for your decoy spread, and get your meat eater gear, cookbooks, and rubs. And also, Whistle Pig is one of only 5 First Light dealers in Missouri. Whistle Pig Outdoors on Main Street in Troy. Visit them online, whistlepigoutdoors.com, whistlepigoutdoors.com. Whistle Pig, get back out there.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli, and my favorite sandwich from Capriati's is the Wagyu beef French dip. So good. It's the au jus that makes it. And the Wagyu beef is pretty good, too. I love Capriati's, and you will, too.
On Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill.
Ronald Reagan once famously said, "Government is not the solution, government is the problem." When it comes to economic growth, government can be a roadblock. With red tape, regulations, and subsidies, government stifles entrepreneurship and also props up businesses that deserve to go under. Unlike government, free markets encourage risk-taking, freedom to succeed or fail. Governments shouldn't be picking winners and losers, the market should. Free markets benefit the business owner and the customer by encouraging competition. Free market enabled a young man named J.C. Hall, selling picture postcards in Kansas City, to turn his idea into Hallmark cards. In St. Louis, the free market made it possible for Adolphus Busch to turn his father-in-law's local beer into the world's largest brewery. A free market also means you get to send your kids to the school of your choice. Learn more about free markets at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
I answered the call, and even though I no longer wear the uniform, I am still a Marine, still serving those around me, my country, and my community. That is Semper Fidelis, always faithful, always Marine.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
New in Washington, the Senate has voted to fund most of the government after President Trump and Democrats struck a deal on Homeland Security. Senators passed the measure a few hours before Friday's midnight deadline. To win passage of the bill, the president agreed to fund Homeland Security at current levels for 2 weeks, while lawmakers debate new restrictions on federal immigration raids demanded by Democrats. Because of the change in DHS funding, the bill heads back to the House, which is not due back until Monday. So technically, part of the government is shut down temporarily this weekend, but the impact should be minimal before the House vote. Greg Clugston, Washington. Tens of thousands of people across the South are still without power. That comes nearly a week after a major winter storm blew through the region. Frustration is starting to boil over in places like Nashville, where residents are criticizing their city's utility response. The Carolinas and Virginia are bracing for more snowfall as a result of another winter storm that formed up off the coast and blew ashore. The Westminster Dog Show, set to open today and run all the way through Monday. It's an historic event, and this is the 150th anniversary.
President Donald Sturz says it's got a storied history.
There was a small group of gentlemen who had some sporting breeds who got together at the Westminster Hotel in 1876. The Westminster Hotel was down on 16th Street in Irving Place. They were kind of comparing their dogs and telling tall tales.
He says the following year they put together a dog show called Gilmore's Gardens with about 1,200 dogs.
It was a huge success.
Top dog at the Westminster Dog Show will be crowned February 3rd at Madison Square Garden. Julie Walker, New York.
It was a rocky ride for the financial markets on Friday after news that President Trump had selected his next Fed chairman. The Dow was down 179 points. More from townhall.com.
Whether you're climbing the corporate ladder, launching a new project, or just looking for that extra edge, your brain is your most valuable asset. Now there's a way to support it every single day, Think Factor. From the makers of Relief Factor, Think Factor is built to help you stay sharp, nurture your memory, boost your attention. It unlocks the mental clarity and precision you need to stay ahead of the game, no matter the challenge. After a couple of weeks of taking Think Factor, I noticed a dramatic difference in my clarity, my focus, even my memory. And look, the longer you take Think Factor, the better it works. This is not a one-off. You want to take Think Factor regularly. If you're a go-getter who refuses to settle, Think Factor can help you perform at your best and keep your edge. Call 800-4RELIEF. That's 800-4RELIEF, or just visit ReliefFactor.com to order Think Factor. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF. Your first bottle is just $19.95. Think Factor. Think clearer, perform better daily with Think Factor.
It's that time of year again.
Looking for the perfect way to say I love you this Valentine's Day? Anthony's Produce has you covered. Get our amazing combo special. 1 dozen beautiful roses and 1 dozen delicious chocolate-covered strawberries for just $39.99. It's romance made easy. Available February 9th through the 15th only, so don't wait. Order online at anthonysproduce.com. Call 636-936-0496 or visit us at 701 Jungerman Road.
Hey everybody, Senator Eric Schmidt here, inviting you to the statewide Lincoln Day celebration, February 20th through the 22nd. It's going to be a great weekend with fellow patriots. We'll talk about how we're going to continue to save this country, deliver on President Trump's agenda, and also celebrate America 250. So join us there. It'll be a lot of fun.
Learn more about the 2026 Lincoln Days and get tickets at Missouri.gop. That's Missouri.gop. Paid for by the Missouri Republican Party. Jennifer Finch, Treasurer.
Psst. Want to hear the best kept secret in St. Louis? Staff's Pizza. We're not afraid to compare squares. According to our customers, we have the best St. Louis style pizza anywhere. And we can't disagree. Dine in, pick up, or delivery in St. Peters, St. Charles, Lake St. Louis on Pond Fort Trail, and the original Stefanina's in O'Fallon on Veterans Memorial Parkway. Check us out at StaffsPizza.com. Staff's Pizza. We're not afraid to compare squares.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Are you being audited or investigated? Has the IRS sent you a letter demanding payment? You may not owe what they claim. Make this free call to the tax doctor now. Let them negotiate with the IRS on your behalf.
800-240-4586. 800-240-4586. That's 800-240-4586.
This hour of the Randy Tobler Show brought to you by Advanced Dentistry Now. Doctors Dan Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer. 636-978-0226 or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com.
Piece of trivia from Larry Connors USA. Dr. Tobler stole my haircut. Larry Connors USA, 6 to 8.
This is kind of MAGA coded, right? So the American flag or whatever, but these are resistance protesters. They're planning an operation that we're going to follow them on. I can't tell you exactly what they're doing, but it's called Operation Pull Up, and it's Takima Armstrong, and she has been doing this since George Floyd, Dante Wright, and others, where they surprise people, catch them off guard, and hold them to account. And so that's what we're doing here. And then after we do this operation, you'll see it live. And these operations are surprise operations. Again, can't tell you where they're going.
Do this operation, can't tell you much. That must have been one of the pieces of incriminating evidence presented to a grand jury. I don't know, but I would imagine that and many other from that storming the church. That was the pre-storming the church little piece that he did there. Well, joining us now, first time with us, is Dr. Alan Mendenhall, author, lawyer, critic, professor. He's a senior advisor with the Heritage Foundation to help us understand what is going on with Don Lemon, what's going on with, or what won't be going on in terms of death penalty on Luigi Mangione, because I don't understand it. Alan, thank you for joining us. Boy, we live in two Americas, because a lot of us out here are going, man, this is pretty clear, cut and dried, but I don't know. There's another side, including the courts, that don't think so. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having me. This is a great way to spend a Saturday morning.
Well, I do appreciate it. You know, you look at this, there's many clips out there that really, I think, separate the journalist from the advocate and the, I would say basically the conspiracy participant, Don Lemon, or am I wrong?
No, I think you're right. So this case is being brought under the FACE Act and this Conspiracy to Deprive Rights Act, which is actually a Reconstruction era act. It applied to the Ku Klux Klan back in the 19th century. So as to Don Lemon, he's trying to claim, I have this freedom of the press, I have this First Amendment right. Well, these church worshipers also have a First Amendment right to worship their Lord and Savior Jesus Christ without this type of disruptive interference. If you take Don Lemon's case to its sort of logical extreme, you would get something that would be clear-cut, wholesale press immunity, which would not make any sense. The First Amendment may protect news gathering, it may protect reporting, but it doesn't protect a journalist from criminal activity. So I think this sort of blanket immunity case, which is like, okay, if I'm press, I have a get out of jail free card, is a little bit outrageous.
Well, yeah, it seems to me as though maybe this or some other case, and I would imagine, maybe someone who's not a, formerly established journalist, but, without as much notoriety and prior, exposure on a major news network. But let's say one of the new independent, camera-toting journalists like a Nick or the others, is it ultimately going to come to the point where the Supreme Court's going to have to define what is a journalist and what are the guardrails on their immunity, or is that already pretty much established in law?
Well, I think that's what the court does not want to do, especially in this day and age when you have this, this flux of change when it comes to who's a journalist and who's not. So a situation that they would want to try to avoid is where people are coordinating and participating in the planning of a crime, and then all they have to do is record themselves or FaceTime themselves as they're performing overt criminal acts, and then they could just say later, well, I'm a journalist, and who's to say where the line gets drawn when you're a journalist, when you're not? I mean, Don Lemon wasn't wearing a press badge when he did all this. There is video footage of him declaring, oh, I'm press, but, you know, you could hold a camera up to yourself and be committing all kinds of crimes and say, well, I'm press. If I'm holding a gun and I start pointing it at people and I'm holding a phone in the other hand, filming myself and saying, well, I'm press as I'm pointing this gun at other people, well, that wouldn't get me out of jail for doing that. So this journalist exception, so to speak, is a dangerous sort of path to go down where the Supreme Court or any, like if it were ever to get appealed to that level, but really any court, lower courts like the one we're going to be dealing with, they're not going to want to have to sit there and define who counts as a journalist and all that kind of granular detail. So I don't want to make predictions here because you just never know. But I feel as if Don Lemon's case does not look very good at the moment. Again, it's all going to turn on facts and what facts the prosecution presents and what facts Don Lemon will present. And so it is going to be a very fact-specific case, I think, in that regard.
Well, let's talk about some precedent in terms of these kind of things. And it's a goose and gander proposition from my perspective. So a guy named Steve Baker was prosecuted successfully and spent time in jail. He's now with the Blaze, but he had a pretty credible, journalistic record as an independent journalist. But then he found himself inside the Capitol on January 6th. And I think he was successfully prosecuted, whereas others like CNN, I actually was interviewed during COVID on a CNN reporter who had been there on J6 and did CNN style reporting. But apparently the difference why those kind of reporters weren't prosecuted and Steve Baker was, from what I can understand, was that there were some statements he had made that allegedly proved his sympathy for, the cause, if you will. And that got him in trouble. Well, if that got Steve Baker in trouble but didn't get other legacy reporters in trouble because they, I guess, didn't have evidence of sympathy to the satisfaction of the court, then I guess shouldn't Don Lemon be prosecuted? Because certainly he's expressed sympathy, talking about white supremacists within 24 hours of that and referencing the church in hand. Isn't that consistency?
Yeah, so criminal law always turns on this mens rea element and intent because it's all about moral blameworthiness. And you're exactly right when you're focusing on Don Lemon's intent. And before he invaded this church, there is video footage of him talking about, hey, we're meeting in secret with these people. We're going to go in. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And that does sort of suggest that he had the intent to disrupt this church service. So I think that you actually have a little bit of an analogous instance here to the prosecution you just mentioned. If you can show that there's this advanced coordination, that they pre-briefed this invasion of a place of worship, and they took demonstrable acts to further the obstruction of worship, then I think you're going to have a case made here.
Well, I wish I was the prosecutor on this because there's another clip. I can't seem to find it now, but there's another clip where he says that we're going to turn the cameras off because they're before they went in, because they, meaning because they're going to say some things, they're going to make some plans. But come on, journalists don't do that. Journalists want to focus the cameras more closely when those kind of things are happening. Well, okay, so that's that. Now, what about this Luigi Mangione thing? I guess the judge, to her credit, did say that the evidence that was in dispute in his backpack that's pretty incriminating is going to be allowed. But on the other hand, they're not going to allow federal prosecutors to bring the death charge. The guy shot the guy in cold blood, for crying out loud. I'm just a knuckle-dragging Luddite out here in flyover country, Alan, but for crying out loud. What's going on here? What was this? Was this another Philadelphia lawyer splitting hairs thing or what?
So this is why this case is particularly complicated. Is there actually 3 different cases going on simultaneously. So you have a prosecution going on in Pennsylvania state court, a prosecution going on in New York state court, and you've got this prosecution going on in federal court. And there is no general federal homicide statute because historically, criminal law is the province of state courts. Like family law, it's the state that's really tasked with doing this this kind of criminal law stuff. Well, the issue is, in Pennsylvania, he's being prosecuted for the things he got that were found at his arrest. So they're small things, like having a fake ID and that type of stuff. Well, the murder happened in New York. New York does not have the death penalty. So in order to seek the death penalty, they're having to seek it in the federal trial. But under federal law, there's no general homicide statute. So what they're having to do is combine different statutes to try to get to a capital offense. So that's what's going on here. And what they're doing is they're trying to combine this interstate stalking statute with a statute that's about firearm use resulting in death. And then they're trying to enhance it with this silencer, a firearm having a silencer thing. Well, this is why it's complicated. So to make it to get it to where it's a capital offense, you have to have a crime of violence that you have to predicate that first statute, the interstate stalking statute, or excuse me, the firearm resulting in death statute on the interstate stalking statute. And what the judge ruled is that the stalking is not actually a crime of violence. The stalking itself is not a crime of violence. So that the combination of statutes they're trying to use doesn't get you to the death penalty. Now, if New York were a state that had the death penalty, I think this would be obviously a death penalty case. So what you're probably going to end up with, I will make a prediction here. I predict he will get convicted. He'll get life in prison under federal, he'll get life in prison under state, and he'll get other charges under state in Pennsylvania. And all these sentences will probably run concurrently, but will result in his getting life in prison, and he'll probably end up in federal prison after all this is done. But that's why this is such a confusing case, is because you've got these three actions going on at once in different courts simultaneously.
Oh, good explanation. Well, we're talking with Alan Mendenhall, author, lawyer, critic, professor. And if you read some of the writings of Alan and listen to him, he's a quite a wonderful intellectual who says things that I think will resonate, and writes things that will resonate with everyone listening, no matter what your worldview is, but especially if it's one of first principles and traditional values. I think that's fair. So now I'm going to make this comment, Alan, and with all due respect to you as a lawyer, well, I think maybe I don't know whether you agree with me or not. As everyday Americans look at the nature of our courts, the current conduct of our courts, and I'm just talking in the large 30,000-foot view, we see overt camera evidentiary evidence of someone shooting someone, a local police officer in Herman, Missouri. We see the Mendenhall. And I think many of us are just on our knees begging, pleading someone somewhere to bring the concept of swift, certain, and severe punishment for severe crimes to an early and severe and certain conclusion, so that as a deterrent and both as justice, things happen. We're so sick and tired of the legal system namby-pambying, splitting hairs, and lawyers extending cases. It happens to us in civil cases. We're drained of our resources if we have to hire an attorney, because the process is all what it's about. And we're mad as hell, and we can't take it anymore, Alan. The justice system is in shambles, in the opinion of many people. What can be done about this? First of all, is the diagnosis right, and what's the prescription?
Well, I think a lot of this has to do with, so you're raising big picture questions, and they're awesome questions. I think a lot of this has to do with social media and having immediate access to facts that are unmediated by, any type of censorship levels, which is great. That's good. So the big picture issue is you can go to antiquity and look at where the law was nothing but blood feuds and vengeance, and what that resulted in is just a never-ending cycle of violence. And that's not constructive either. So you want to channel that desire for revenge through public processes and procedures so that you ensure that everybody does have rights honored and that we do follow procedures through public fora and all that kind of stuff. However, on the other hand, when the procedures get hyper-technical and when precedent gets so embedded in sort of the wrong direction that people are getting off scot-free or that injustice looks like is what's happening, then you start losing credibility in the legal system writ large, and you've got sort of the opposite problem where you've got a legal system that is so consumed in hyper-technicalities that it's undermining its own credibility. So these are big picture questions again, but it's sort of like a balancing act. What does the legal system have to do? In my opinion, both this Don Lemon case and the Luigi Mangione case are pretty clear cut. Like, I think that we have bad actors breaking the law, and there ought to be clear consequences. And when people see that there aren't, and people are perceiving that that's the legal system's fault, then you've really got a problem. And, you know, another issue is that the main way to solve problems like that is usually through legislative change. And I think we've got such dysfunction at the congressional level, both on state levels and at the federal level, that it's hard to get fixes to these problems too. And that just makes the dysfunction even more widespread.
Well, it's just, I mean, when those of us who are filing our taxes may 3 years from now be nailed with a penalty because we innocently made a mistake, and we pay penalty and taxes, and you know, you drive 65 and a 55. Okay, I got to pony up. We get tired of everyday people paying the price for their behavior, but other people, perps, not paying the price, and victims being left out in the cold. One final thing, we're going to play a clip from you from the minority leader of the Democrat Party in the House of Representatives, and I want to ask you if he shouldn't be in shackles today in jail. Take a listen.
Sorry,
this is Hakeem Jefferies.
We're having some technical difficulties here, Doc. Sorry about that.
What Hakeem Jefferies said, Alan, was he wants Kristi Noem to be put permanently on ice, and that others need to be put, have the same fate. Is that not clear threat under U.S. code? I forget the number. I looked it up last night, threatening a department director in the administration, and shouldn't that be prosecuted?
Well, it sort of depends where that was given. So was that given like on the floor of Congress, or was
no? Take it. Do you have it, Jerome? Jerome, do you have it?
I'm working on it right now. Sorry about that.
We're trying to get it. No, he was giving a speech, and he said Kristi Noem needs to be put on ice permanently. And we all know he was trying to make a metaphor, but I'm sorry. There it goes.
We are dead serious. She needs to be put on ice permanently. She's got to go.
Yeah.
And by the way, she's not the only one.
At a minimum, if Donald Trump, by asking people to peacefully and patriotically march to the Capitol, got prosecuted, Alan, shouldn't Hakeem pay some penance for this? I mean, shouldn't there be some accountability, for crying out loud?
Well, and you know what's interesting about that? I mean, that is very dangerous rhetoric. But what's interesting is the way he led it. He basically said, I'm dead serious, because typically the legal standard is if a reasonable person thinks the threat is true, then, that's how you can get to criminal liability. But a lot of what politicians do is just hyperbolic rhetoric, or they say stuff. That sounded very different, because he said, I'm dead serious. He's not, he's basically saying, this is not a joke. I mean this. And that really could rise to the level of criminal conduct. But regardless of whether it does,
It is highly irresponsible rhetoric, especially after what we've seen, like after the shooting of C. Scalise, and we know that there are people out there who are disposed to violence, and we do not want to be encouraging those people to go out and try to be vigilantes or whatever. That's just highly reckless rhetoric.
Well, we went over, but boy, you are a wise and eloquent analyst for what's going on in our crazy America. Thank you, Alan Mendenhall. Stay in touch with Professor Mendenhall at alanmendenhall.com. Appreciate your time. Can speak again very soon. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We're going to step aside and then come back in a few. Take your calls, 314-912-1019 at 1019-941 News Talk STL. Lots to talk about yet.
Doctor, you have an unsurpassed talent for understatement.
Well, just about when you think that there's just craziness all around the world, there is absolute, resolute integrity and beautiful behavior going on in Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles with regard to your teeth and the things around your teeth and in your mouth and your muscles of your jaw. If you're a grinder, they can do some Botox there and, sort of relax that so you don't grind yourself all night. There's all kinds of cool things going on at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles, and advanced means they are at the point of the sphere of all things technological, and then doing it in such a compassionate and warm and sort of a family atmosphere. I just feel like it's a family when I go there, and I've been going to Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles with Dr. Cusimano and Dr. Dwyer, and before that, Dr. Jay Omas. It's a fabulous legacy now carried on beautifully, and they're expanding, by the way, in the St. Charles area. So get to know them, Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles. And by the way, they are respectful in these difficult economic times of your pocketbook, too. AdvancedDentistryNow.com. It's AdvancedDentistryNow.com.
This is News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton, and we're proud to be the official winter weather source for News Talk STL. The First Alert Weather Team is working hard to keep you ahead of the big weather changes and help you plan your day. So stay connected this winter with Channel 4 and News Talk STL.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common-sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on NewsTalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros and Exteriors, your all-in-one service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. Christine and I discovered Gutter Pros and Exteriors when we bought our home and inherited a gutter problem. And they've also repaired siding damage on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros team are also the best for repairing other exterior damage, including fascia, soffit, and all siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros and Exteriors can help your home or business right now at gutterpros.com.
Hey, Mike Ferguson here, and for nearly 40 years, Nutrition Stop has been St. Peter's trusted source for natural living. They've got a great, knowledgeable staff offering more than just products. They provide guidance on your wellness journey with exceptional service, from 100% grass-fed meats like elk and bison and local produce to quality supplements and clean household products. 4101 Mexico Road in St. Peter's, just off the interstate at Cave Springs and Highway 70.
Kathy Connor from Connor Roofing is here. Kathy, how you doing?
Good. Hi, Vic.
You know, when you need a roof, I don't want to call a stranger. I want to call you.
Yeah, thanks. At Connor Roofing, we're more than just a roofing company.
How long you been doing it?
Since 1993.
And year after year, storm after storm, you guys are always there.
Because this is our home too, Vic. Our kids go to school with your kids. We cheer for the same teams. Go Blues!
So support your neighbors. Call Connor Roofing at 314-375-7475 or CONNER roofing.com.
Thanks, Vic.
Colombo and Company.
Join us every day for conversations with a wide variety of guests as we keep you informed and up to speed on all the important news and headlines you need to know.
Live and local weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL.
Hey, it's Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show, and you are listening to Randy Tobler right here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Why? Because you're awesome.
So I'm Somali. I'm proud to be Somali. To me, being Somali isn't just eating bananas with rice. It's a lot. It's like it's an interesting thing. It's very hard to describe what it means to be Somali and what it means to be American, but it's like a cultural fusion. It's kind of like the bananas and rice. You know, people don't really see, like, you know, it's you know, people don't think, oh, you can eat bananas with rice, but that's what it's like.
Okay, so that is one Nasra Ahmed, a Somalian who was talking nonsense bananas and rice talk, and we played it just a week ago. And she's one of these activists. And, you know, once in a while, I mean, sometimes you begin to wonder, is the sky falling? I don't want to be that guy that's just like all is lost and nihilist. I mean, sometimes you got to watch, you got to pinch yourself and look for the positives. And I found positives. Bananas and rice lady, Nasra Ahmed, was among 16 others, well, among 16 that were arrested this Wednesday for participating in anti-ICE protests. I saw her there again, you know, with her mugshot, and I thought, wow, I don't see any bananas and rice smile there. Pam Bondi wrote that federal agents had arrested 16 rioters for assaulting federal law enforcement, allegedly assaulting federal law enforcement. I love this. Everyone has to use allegedly. What a bunch of Bravo Sierra that is. I mean, really, why do we always have to say allegedly? She was arrested for assaulting them. Then it will be determined if the arrest leads to a prosecution. It's funny how the law loves to mince the words until it doesn't fit their narrative. And then we say, well, no, we just made a mistake. It's crazy. Our legal system is so screwed up. It's just so screwed up. And you know what? We can't crack into it because it's the only profession, it's the only system in America that has no outside oversight. Think about it. The lawyers are the judges. The lawyers run the courts. The lawyers nominate, in Missouri anyway, the Bar Association sends the slate of nominees for Supreme Court judge. It's all an internal protected cabal. It's an amazing group, and they can protect their right to bill hourly while they get extensions and file more briefs and more. It's a beautiful, beautiful conflicted of interest, but ultimately protected system. But I digress. And I'm sorry if I'm ticking off some of you lawyers, but you know it's true. If you want to debate me, let me know. So Nasra Ahmed, a Somali American, was arrested. And I don't know if they'll be giving her bananas and rice, but I found out, I did a little research, Jerome. I think she went to the Leering Center. I'm not certain. She went to the Leering Center.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, she's either the English teacher or the translator at the Leering Center, right?
Right. But the good news is that you do see more presence of the local law enforcement officers. And I don't know whether they're Minneapolis police, whether they are county, deputies and sheriff's deputies. I'm not sure. But it's good to see that you're seeing a little bit more of some accountability on the side. And had that happened, had that accountability been brought on Alex Pretty, I think he'd probably be alive. When he spit at the officer getting into the Border Patrol guy or the ICE guy, I'm not sure which, getting into the SUV and kicked out the tail light. And I love the way that the media on the left is minimizing and trivial. Oh, so you kick out a tail light. By the way, some of that fender went along with it. It wasn't just the tail light. And, you do that and you get killed. Oh, is that what we're in with Gestapo Nazi America? Yeah, really? No, that's not what we're saying at all. What I'm saying is, like I've said all along, if people are brought to account, whether they're in 3rd grade, 5th grade, 10th grade, 12th, at whatever level they're brought to account, they're usually brought to some degree of repentance and education. And that's the way we learn, by being brought to account when we make mistakes or when we act out and willfully make errors against the law, whatever the law is at the time. If you don't sit down in your seat when the kindergarten teacher says to sit down in your seat, you should be made to account. Instead, in modern day America, well, You don't understand. There was trauma early in that child's life, and so we understand why they don't want to sit down in their chair as a kindergartner and throw their milk at someone when it's milk time. And so we have to understand them. We have to work with them. We have to support them. Well, support for them would be to make them accountable. And when it comes then to a grown-up kindergarten who didn't sit down in their chair and threw their milk carton at someone in the kindergarten room, who wasn't made to account but was excused away because of trauma in their life, and wasn't given, here we go, in case you're just joining us, the theme of today's program is lack of guardrails in America and lack of a guiding map that's a consensus way to live. We've lost that. Now you can live how you want to be. I can be my guy, you be your person, and if my way gets in your way, deal with it. Used to be, my independence stops where your independence begins, and we all agreed that there's some pretty good force fields around us. You don't mess with me because I've got my own rights and independence too. But now, if you're a rioter in LA or Portland or Minneapolis, well, I just don't agree with ICE, so I'm going to go and ram my SUV into them, and that's my First Amendment right. Well, no, it isn't. It just absolutely isn't, because there's things. Your First Amendment right is defined by peaceful assembly. Peaceful assembly. Ramming your car into an ICE agent, getting in the face of and throwing an ice water bottle in an ICE agent, and I would offer kicking in the right rear quarter panel and spitting at the ICE agent and destroying their car or vandalizing their car is not peaceful assembly. Now, we have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome into the Tobler Show.
We have John the First making his return debut.
John
Welcome back.
I love John the First. John the First sharpens our rhetorical skills. John, how are you?
I'm doing okay, Randy, and I'm glad that you're so energetic today. I'd call it a little, we'll let that go. Hey, my question to you is, and this is where all my conservative friends get up in arms with protest. I agree with you. Peaceful protest is exactly, you got to remember the peaceful part, right? As soon as you touch somebody, as soon as you hit somebody, as soon as you damage public property, that's not peaceful protest anymore, right?
Go ahead.
You still there?
Yeah, of course. Well, of course. I mean,
okay.
We don't even need to discuss that. I mean, that means you can read and understand the English language. But okay, go ahead.
Okay, January 6th, the Capitol Hill, where MAGA movement people beat the heck out of Capitol Police with Trump flags, wearing Trump paraphernalia, and there were, obviously a long process. There were arrests done, people put in jail, and Trump comes in and pardons them and say they're political prisoners, and the right, including yourself, protect those guys. So is that
whoa, John, hang on, stop, hard stop. Don't include me in that crowd, and do not put words in my mouth, brother. I said people who assaulted officers should have been properly prosecuted and jailed. And it was a mistake for that group of those people that Trump pardoned. He did pardon some people who did not. They just followed people into the Capitol and were probably guilty of some kind of misdemeanor, trespassing, whatever, at most. But that doesn't mean hours in jail of solitary confinement. And that did accrue to some people.
Would you have been okay with the Capitol Police pulling their guns and emptying them inside those, pointing them at the January 6th rioters and shooting them in the head? Would you be okay with that? Would you back that?
I think in the moment someone was attacking a guard, yes, I actually would have defended that. If those are police officers, those are law enforcement officers. Now, the young lady who was shot and killed, I think on that matter, that's
Ashley
a controversial
Babbitt.
one.
Yeah.
It's a very controversial one.
Okay, that one. How about Patty being on the ground, somebody beating him in the head, hitting him in the head? He had a right to carry. He had a conceal and carry. He didn't have it in his hand, and somebody 6 or 10 shots were while he's
we don't know.
on
That
the
investigation has yet to play out. And look,
I'm just going
something
by
that
the
you
video.
people on the left. No, wait,
I wasn't
John.
there. I'm going by the videos that have been out.
You're going by the videos, and you're probably forgetting that at one point when he was on the ground, crouched on the ground, he also had he was reaching for an object, which probably turned out to be his cell phone, but it was an object with his right hand right before the shooting occurred. And remember that the standard by which law enforcement is judged by case law, I forget the particular case's name, is that in the eyes of an officer, if they feel at the moment that a reasonable officer, that they or the lives of others are in danger, imminent danger, they are justified in eliminating the threat, right?
For my life.
So all we can say is that the Capitol Police. The gap.
Okay.
It's not a hypothetical.
No. How about if I give you a hypothetical? So if I go to conceal and carry, open carry law and I stand out in front of a Trump rally, and somebody comes up to me and gets in my face and says I need to leave, I'm on public ground, and they lay hands on me, and there's 10 other people wearing their MAGA paraphernalia, and I say, don't touch me, and they keep on touching me, I pull out my gun and I shoot 10 people. And then at court, I say I was in fear for my life. Would that count?
You're putting a hypothetical that I don't think has ever been in reality utilized. That's never been an actual action of a law enforcement officer. And if you're a citizen, you cannot use that as a defense because you're not a law enforcement officer.
Okay.
Thank you for the call, John. Good
here's
try.
Another question. One more question for you.
Well, please.
Okay.
You're dominating the segment here. Go.
Right to quit. I agree with you. Right to you said something about quick court. Have your court case heard quickly, and I agree it should be done. Donald Trump he had 4 cases against him, and he used stall tactics for 3.5 years to get him to delay those cases. So you and I agree on that subject matter.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you, John. I'm glad we agree on something. Good. That's good. And John, you're one of the sad. It's sad that you're a smart person, but you want to always argue the problem that got out of hand way down the road instead of having a discussion about why wasn't Mr. Pretty arrested for vandalism by the local authorities when he spit at and then later on vandalized a vehicle, whether it was an ICE vehicle or not. If my vehicle is kicked in by someone I'm driving through and I'm on, and someone who's unhappy with me vandalized, I want the full extent of the law immediately meted out on them. And I'm tired. People have argued with me before, Randy, that they didn't assault your body. It doesn't matter. It's another example of us not taking things in hand and making people account before they do heinous crimes. We'll step aside and wrap it up after this.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Join the conversation. All you have to do is say,
Hey Alexa, play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
Looking for unbelievable deals? Stop by Overstock Outlet in Lake St. Louis or Warrenton. Open 7 days a week. Discover big savings on a huge variety of merchandise with no hassle. Just great prices. Visit us in Lake St. Louis on Highway N or in Warrenton on Boones Lake. Check out our Facebook page at Overstock Outlet Lake St. Louis or go online to overstockoutletstl.com. Unbeatable value, friendly service, and you never know what we'll have at Overstock Outlet.
License number GL250000615.
Hey, it's good to see you.
2 sounds that can wreck your sleep. A drip and a toilet that won't stop running.
Drip, drip, all night.
Good news. We're doing plumbing now. Same folks, same care, same we do it right.
Leaky faucet, running toilet.
Or a stubborn clog, call Grasser.
Electric and plumbing, the Grasser way.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
Retirement planning used to be easy. You put in your 40 years with the company, get the gold watch, and life's good, right? Wrong. Randy Tobler here. Planning for retirement today involves balancing critical decisions regarding your investments, pensions, Social Security, and more. That's why I'm urging you to start planning now. It's also why you should connect with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. They bring a combined 100 years of wealth management experience to help you with your retirement plan. You can hear Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert every Saturday morning at 9 during On the Money here on News Talk STL 1019. Their team is ready to help you design your retirement plan with the care and commitment you deserve. Request your complimentary retirement plan consultation today at clearpathinvesting.com or call 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company, Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
When I have business clients or guests from out of town, I often take them to Cafe Napoli. I know they're going to enjoy any of the Napoli locations. Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, next to Napoli C, Napoli Kirkwood, or Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the Chesterfield Valley. Excellent food and intellectual conversation, if they bring the intellectual conversation. And NapoliSTL.com, NapoliSTL.com.
Hey, Colombo here for Intervine, a great local company that has customers all across the country due to the quality of their products. Intervine has the best flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, and even batteries, including the new Monster 2000 lumen waterproof lantern and the Sentinel 2000 self-defense flashlight. Our home and vehicles are full of great Intervine products, and right now you can shop their website and get 25% off your entire purchase just by using my name, Tony, as your promo code. That's promo code Tony at Intervine.com.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, brought to you by Advanced Dentistry Now. Doctors Dan Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer. 636-978-0226. Or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com.
That's life. That's life. That's what all the people say.
Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer. On News Talk STL. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. This is News Talk STL.
Welcome back into the program. I think the conversation between John the First and me was instructive. We need to have more conversations like that. It's good to hear what the other side has to say, because usually there is a kernel of truth to that. I mean, I saw the videos. You cannot deny there's videos of Proud Boy people attacking, assaulting, and it's been documented. One of the women officers was injured. She had an orthopedic injury. If you're that close to a law enforcement officer that's armed, you are playing with more than fire. You're playing with firearm, because there have been instances where their firearms have been taken from them and used against them, right? That's happens. So I think they have every right to do whatever they need to do to protect themselves, and kudos to them at that day that they didn't do that, frankly. I mean, I don't know. I think I could have defended that. We've got to be intellectually honest to have integrity in our movement. Now, Jerome, you have some thoughts.
Yeah, because I understand the outrage and the shock and the horrors of when anybody is killed in any situation, let alone in an unfortunate situation like that. Now, with Freddie specifically, I've said this on record multiple times now, but I am still not entirely convinced that the shooting was justified. I think that there are a lot of mistakes Freddie made, both leading up to the incident and on the day of the incident. I just don't think that it is. We still need for the trial and everything before we have that sort of condemnation or praise, either way you want to look at it. With Ashley Babbitt and J6, I've talked to many J6ers. I've talked to some people that were in the cell block with Jake Lang, and he's being a knucklehead right now as well. And I've seen their footage and the crowd themselves when they are pointing out the bad actors that were starting fights with the officers and calling them out and rebuking them and saying, don't fight the officers.
Right.
They're having conversations. I've seen a lot of evidence from the firsthand accounts of people. And the Ashley Babbitt situation, we should be able to agree as well. It's tragic that she got killed. And she was also, again, you have a mob full of people coming through. You don't know their intentions. You don't know what's going on. You're a solo officer. and she put herself in a situation where that was the outcome, whether or not people want to view it as justified or not.
Right.
That is, I think that should be more of what the conversation is about. It should not be a tit for tat. J6 happened, therefore nothing the ICE protesters are doing is wrong. But by the way, ICE is abusing protesters. But you have to ignore the Chaz Chop, the takeover of that entire city block. This is not productive. What we need to be doing is viewing each incident within the context of its own confines, and not try to do a tit for tat. Well, this happened and that happened, because it's different people, it's different circumstances. So I like these conversations, but no, I not everybody that is on the right, not every conservative. I'm a 2A guy. I go to protests and I'm armed at protests. I don't go there to cause trouble, and I would never in my life harass anybody or get in anybody's face unless, it's my duty to retreat. If I'm armed, I have to. It's not by law, but it's my moral duty to retreat out of the situation before I draw a firearm on anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But not everybody's going to view it that the same way. And until we can view the left as individuals with their own stuff, and we stop treating them like they agree with everything or disagree with everything, and then until they stop doing it to us, we're not going to be able to really have very many productive conversations.
And I find it interesting that John the First and people on the left generally are utterly, generally incapable of. I think right at the end we had a little agreement on a minor point, but they tend to be incapable of ever acknowledging that there's misbehavior, egregious misbehavior. I didn't get a chance to ask John the First because you'd have had to have your crickets chirping soundbite there. But I wonder what he thinks of the difference between peacefully and patriotically walking to the Capitol to protest, Donald Trump's words, versus Hakeem Jefferies' words to say that Kristi, Noem, and others should be put on ice permanently. In case you're just catching up with us, we've been talking about that. Hakeem Jefferies, not on the floor of the House or Senate, but at a podium, which I assume does not then give him immunity. Why do we give our legislators immunity to say what the hell they want if they're just standing in the well of the Senate? Or what is that all about? And where is the reasonable senator? Maybe Senator Schmidt or Hawley or someone will maybe try to change the rules to where you just don't have blanket immunity as a senator to just, if you're Harry Reid, say that, Donald Trump didn't pay his taxes, or was it Mitt Romney? Mitt Romney didn't pay his taxes. Really? I mean, and so you're immune from some kind of defamation stuff? What is that all about? There's so many things that make no sense to us common, hardworking people that are just trying to live our lives and mind our own business. Let's have a phone call here to wrap it up. Let's do that.
Go ahead, one more follow up. This is very good information, but it's regarding the Preddy case.
Okay, caller, welcome into the program.
Hey, good morning, Doc. Good morning, Jerome. Just a real quick comment. Sorry, I'm a little out of breath. I've been getting my snow pants on to go out and shovel snow.
Stay warm, man.
I will do. I appreciate that. But I just need to tell you, earlier this week, Megyn Kelly had on Andrew Branca, Branca. I think it was her show number 1238, and I want to think it was Tuesday or Wednesday's program.
Yeah. I have that,
and
I have it. We don't have time for it, but he's a self-defense expert, right?
He is, and I'm addressing Jerome's concern about the legality or the appropriateness or whatever you want to call it of the Preddy shooting. It is hands down in favor of the officer, not a question. This guy, Preddy, was fully in the wrong. The moment he touched one of those law enforcement officers, he was committing a federal offense punishable by 8 years in prison. The rest of it, unfortunately, unfolded the way it did, but Branca immediately justifies the shooting. So I would encourage everybody to listen to it.
And I'm glad you brought that up. I'm definitely going to look into that because
Thanks, caller. Appreciate it.
I've been looking into the legal codes of what's Border Patrol versus ICE versus DOJ versus police as much as I can. I've been looking up the gun laws. I'm not disagreeing. The moment that he he touched the officer's shoulder, he physically inserted himself between the lady that was pushed and the guy. He was completely in the wrong. There was grounds for a arrest to be made for assaulting an officer. He should not have done that. My only concern, and I appreciate again the call, but my concern is the fact that he is on camera being physically disarmed. He never brandished or drew the firearm, and then he was shot 10 times seconds later. Again, I'm willing to say they could have thought he was reaching for something, and then that was in the moment what they thought was the best thing to do, but I'm not 100% convinced yet. And that's because I see people saying shouldn't have brought a gun to a protest. That's not illegal the way he did it under Minnesota law.
I'm going to close it like I opened it, and I'm going to ask you to listen to this entire last song here. We're not playing the whole thing because we started a little early, but remember, it's about guardrails. Alex Preddy apparently had not been taught or forgot his guardrails. And it's about maps along the right path to the right destination. This song, I think, maybe gives a little hint on where we need to return to get those guardrails and paths. Discuss it again next week on the Randy Tobler Show. Thanks for being here.
This is the time of the year most of us are checking off our holiday gift list. Identity thieves have lists too, and your personal information might be on that list. Protect your identity with LifeLock. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every single second and alerts you to the threats you could miss yourself. If your identity is stolen, your own U.S.-based restoration specialist is going to work to fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Make this season about joy, not identity theft, with LifeLock. Save up to 40% off your first year at LifeLock.com with the promo code BECK. Terms apply.
Your ambition just met its match with Robinhood. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. All investments involve risk, including loss of principal. Options, futures, and crypto trading carry significant risk and may not suit all investors. Securities offered through Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Futures trading is offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, not FDIC or SIPC protected. Crypto offered through Robinhood Crypto LLC, NMLS ID 1702840, not FDIC or SIPC protected. Portfolio management offered by Robinhood Strategies, an SEC registered advisor.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888